Chapter 75. Xiao Yu and Anya were fighting with their lives on the line with the icy soul heavenly silkworm. If another fourth tribulation expert came to assist the enemy, the two of them would have no hope of escaping. Emoshang wasn't having a good time either. He had already trapped the two thieves. Although they were in a stalemate, the environment here was advantageous to him. He was confident that he could have a last laugh. However, the situation became complicated with Utopia's arrival. If Utopia attacked Emoshang or had other intentions, Emoshang would have a headache. Utopia, didn't I warn you that you can only stay in the formation and not come to the valley? Emoshang asked first. Brother Emoshang, please don't misunderstand. I was just walking casually in the formation and accidentally walked out of the formation into the valley. Then, I felt that there was a battle here, so I rushed over to take a look and help Brother Emoshang. Utopia explained with a smile. I don't need your help here. Please leave my tribe's forbidden grounds quickly. Otherwise, if the Great Elder knows about this, he will find trouble with you. Emoshang said in a tone that was not to be rejected. Emoshang, it said that one must be honest. Although you aren't humans, as flood dragons, you are still considered noble creatures. It's better to be honest. These two people were originally the target of our main hall. It's just that they accidentally hid here. Moreover, the two of them just killed 8 of our Tribulation Stage experts and 3 of our Great Ascension Stage experts. I even injured them severely. Now that they are in your Black Flood Dragon tribe's forbidden grounds, you want to punish them as you wish. Do they have nothing to do with our main hall? When Utopia heard that Emoshang didn't give him any face and wanted to chase him away, his face immediately turned cold. Utopia, don't just talk about your losses. Our losses will only be much greater than yours. You forced them into my tribe's forbidden grounds. You should know what kind of place this is. This is the resting place of my tribe's ancestors. They came here and stole nearly 100 of our tribe's ancestors' dragon pearls and destroyed hundreds of our ancestors' corpses. Shouldn't our Black Flood Dragon tribe ask for some compensation? Emoshang glared and said furiously, It's not impossible for you to ask for some compensation. They have more than one immortal artifact on them, and they have other treasures as well. Can't we just split them equally? Utopia said in a seemingly neutral manner. Of course, we can split the loot equally. However, you can't just watch from the side. You have to put in more effort. Let's get rid of them together. Don't think that you could just sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. Emoshang nodded his head in agreement. This was the effect he wanted. He knew that it was impossible for him to chase Utopia away, but he still had to pretend to do so that the atmosphere would be beneficial to him. I'm here to help, Utopia replied gloomily. When he first arrived, he had already stated that he was here to help. I've already activated the heaven-boiling poison fire. Brother Wu Bang, if you insert a darkness origin talisman into it, you'll definitely be able to help me kill these 2 bastards. Emoshang suggested. Darkness origin symbol? There's no need to be so wasteful. They're already trapped by Brother Emoshang. As long as I use the dark chain prison again, it'll be enough to get rid of them, Utopia said. The Darkness Origin Talisman was Utopia's trump card. He would not use it easily. Even though he was a Grand Hall Elder, he only had 1 Darkness Origin Talisman on him. He would not use it on these 2 bandits who were already struggling for their lives. I suggest that Brother Wu Bang be more cautious. Although the Darkness Origin symbol is precious, it's not as valuable as a true immortal artifact. Now that you're using the Dark Chain Prison to help me, it's actually equivalent to not putting in any effort. If the Dark Chain Prison was useful to them, would they have escaped into our tribe's forbidden grounds? Emoshang shook his head and said, at this moment, he had already made a plan in his heart. He would kill Utopia as well and let the 2 immortal artifacts belong to the Black Flood Dragon tribe. Anyway, this place was surrounded by a great formation. Everything here would not be known to outsiders. Since Utopia had trespassed into the Black Flood Dragon tribe's forbidden grounds and was killed by the bastards, what reason would the experts from the main hall have to find trouble with the Black Dragon Bay? If he wanted to scheme against Utopia, he would have to make Utopia use his trump card. Otherwise, not only would he fail to scheme against Utopia, but he would also end up harming himself. Of course, Emoshang also knew that Utopia would not use the darkness origin symbol so easily. Even if they have immortal artifacts, they won't be able to last long against the combined forces of you and me, two Fourth Tribulation experts. As Utopia spoke, he had already activated the dark chain prison. Thick metal chains slowly condensed from dark energy and pounced towards Shaolin Yu and Anya. A faint sneer appeared on Emoshang's face. He was secretly reducing his energy consumption and weakening the power of the heaven-boiling poison fire. Utopia knew that Emoshang had already expended a lot of energy. The reason why he did not use the darkness origin symbol was because he felt that it would be too wasteful. Secondly, he did not want to kill the two of them too early. He wanted to continue wasting time. It would be best if he could exhaust Emoshang's energy. Although Utopia's dark chain prison was also a divine ability that only Fourth Tribulation experts could use, its power was far inferior to the heaven-boiling poison fire. Although the dark chain prison joined the attack, Emoshang had secretly weakened the power of the heaven-boiling poison fire. This made it easier for Shaolin Yu and Anya, who were trapped here. However, they did not dare to waste their energy to counterattack. Two Fourth Tribulation experts were not people that they could face. This stalemate lasted for a period of time. Then, Emoshang said to Utopia, "Brother Utopia, we can't continue wasting time like this. Your dark chain prison is completely useless against them. My heaven-boiling poison fire cannot be maintained for too long. If you don't want to waste the darkness origin symbol, you can charge in and destroy their defenses. I will support you with the heaven-boiling poison fire from outside." When Utopia heard this, his mind became active. If he really went in, he could definitely kill those two inside. Then, he would be able to snatch everything from those two at the first moment. Then, he would have the absolute initiative. When the time came, the main hall would have the final say on what treasures to give to Black Dragon Bay, or whether they would be given to them. Of course, Utopia also knew that if he went in, he might be schemed against by Emoshang. However, he did not expect that Emoshang would dare to take his life. Even if Emoshang wanted to harm him, he had the darkness origin symbol. He would not lose his life under the heaven-boiling poison fire. Thinking up to this point, Utopia very straightforwardly replied, "Okay." Then he really dived into the heaven-boiling poison spell. Emoshang would not attack from the start. He cooperated with Utopia by keeping the poison fire away from him. Furthermore, he allowed Utopia to clearly see Shaolin Yu and Anya's positions. This made it easier for Utopia to take action. However, Emoshang's so-called support was limited to this. Utopia tried using all sorts of spells and attacks. However, he was unable to break through Shaolin Yu and Anya's defenses. Even if it was an attack-type immortal weapon, it still had some defensive capabilities. Utopia still did not dare to go near them. Firstly, he was worried about Emoshang. Secondly, he was afraid of the might of an immortal weapon. After all, the bodies of loose immortals and loose demons were extremely weak. Emoshang knew that this could not go on. Hence, he strengthened his attacks on Shaolin Yu and Anya, especially on Anya. Waves of dark green poison fire turned into arrows and launched a frenzied attack on Anya. Anya was struggling to deal with it. Even Shaolin Yu had to help Anya block some of the attacks from time to time to ensure that Anya would not be harmed. When Utopia saw this, he waved his hand and shot out a few black light pillars towards Anya. They really broke through Anya's sword defense. At the same time, a black light pillar and a poison fire arrow took advantage of the situation and were about to hit the defenseless Anya. Shaolin Yu was only in time to help Anya block the black light pillar. However, the poison fire arrow hit Anya's chest, causing Anya's body to fly backwards. Fresh blood spurted out her mouth. Emoshang did not take advantage of the situation to pursue. Instead, he attacked Shaolin Yu with the poison fire arrow, preventing Shaolin Yu from rescuing Anya. When Utopia saw this opportunity, he naturally would not cooperate with Emoshang to attack Shaolin Yu. Instead, he chased after Anya. He wanted to snatch Anya's immortal sword first. However, what Utopia did not know was that Emoshang had already retrieved most of the poison fire arrow that had sunk into Anya's body. Anya had not lost her ability to fight. Just as Utopia approached Anya, Anya had already steadied herself. The immortal sword in her hand slashed towards him with a chilling sword intent. Anya's attack was a result of her anger after being injured. It was extremely fast and powerful. Utopia knew that things were not going well. However, he only had time to shoot out a black light to stop it. However, the might of an immortal sword was not so easy to stop. The dazzling immortal sword split the black light apart and chopped off Utopia's arm. Instantly, blood splattered everywhere. Utopia let out a blood-curdling scream and ran away from the poison fire arrow. However, what Utopia did not expect was that Xiaoling Yu, who was originally surrounded by the poison fire arrow, was able to stop him effortlessly after Emo Shang purposely went easy on him. Furthermore, the poison fire arrow took advantage of Utopia's shock and entered his body through his wound. Although Anya and Xiaoling Yu could guess that they had been used, they were still happy to get rid of a powerful enemy first. This was exactly what Emo Shang wanted. Utopia had to die. Moreover, he had to be killed by Emo Shang. Of course, Emo Shang also wanted Utopia to severely injure the two thieves before he died. It would be best if he could use the Darkness Origin Talisman to kill one of them. That would be the best outcome. Utopia had already expected that Emo Shang would plot against him. However, he did not expect Emo Shang to be so vicious. Even if he had a supreme-grade messaging spiritual pearl, he could not hope to send out a request for help. Anya and Xiaoling Yu did not even need to greet each other. The immortal weapons in their hands attacked the severely injured Utopia. The phoenix feathers' scorching heat waves and the immortal sword's sharp sword radiance made Utopia, who had sword elemental energy and poison fire arrow running amok in his body, feel despair. Old Emo Shang, how dare you plot against me? The main hall will definitely make you regret it. Utopia roared loudly. His face was almost distorted. Hee, you were not killed by me. You were killed by these two thieves. Emo Shang's lips curled into a smug smile as he spoke in a low voice. If you want to kill me, one of you will have to die with me. Utopia said to Xiaoling Yu and Xiaoling Yu. A talisman treasure that looked like a black metal piece surrounded by a circle of black fog appeared above his head. Chapter 76. Emo Shang, even if I die, I won't let you off easily. To everyone's surprise, Utopia did not shoot the Darkness Origin Talisman at Xiaoling Yu and Emo Shang. Instead, he shot it outside the formation. Utopia had left a weak soul imprint outside the formation. It was supposed to be used to locate his position, but now it could be used to locate the Darkness Origin Talisman. The soul imprint was right beside Emo Shang, where Utopia had been standing before he entered the heaven-boiling poison fire. After the Darkness Origin Talisman flew out of the heaven-boiling poison fire, it exploded beside Emo Shang. Although Emo Shang had left in advance, his reaction was still a little too late. He did not expect Utopia to leave a soul imprint outside to locate his position. In his plan, even if Utopia wanted to bite him at the last moment, he would have to leave the heaven-boiling poison fire first. Boom! An explosion shook the heavens. A mighty shockwave instantly swept through the entire valley. Originally, the space was only fluctuating violently. Now, it was like a hurricane was wreaking havoc on the surface of the sea. Layers of turbulent waves that almost folded the space rippled. Wherever it passed, it would definitely destroy anything that was not at the level of an immortal artifact. Moreover, along with the layers of fluctuating space, there is also an extremely vigorous darkness origin energy that surged in all directions. The darkness origin energy released by the Darkness Origin Talisman was even more violent and offensive. The darkness origin energy that originally existed in the valley was completely swept away. However, when the darkness origin energy collided with the dark green poison fire, it was like pouring gasoline into a raging fire. The dark green poison fire deepened into a pure black color. At this moment, there were many Black Flood Dragon Clan cultivators around the island where the valley was located. They had been summoned here. Before the enemy appeared, They first felt a gust of strong wind sweeping out from the center of the island. Then, they heard the sirens of the formation in their forbidden area, which indicated that it had been severely damaged. Mo Shang was naturally the closest to where the Darkness Origin Talisman had exploded. He had paid a heavy price for scheming against Utopia. His body as a loose demon was unable to withstand such a level of impact and collapsed. However, he had managed to protect his demon nascent soul using the nascent soul armor he had forged from his scales. As for Utopia, who had unleashed the Darkness Origin Talisman, he was also attacked by the pure black poisonous flames. He didn't have any powerful defensive techniques, and he still had sword elemental energy and poisonous flames wreaking havoc in his body. He was directly engulfed by the pure black poisonous flames. He could also choose to detonate his energy body and blast the poisonous flames away. Then, he would also end up with only his nascent soul left. As for Shaolin Yu and Anya, they obviously didn't end up well either. They could use their immortal weapons to resist the violent spatial fluctuations, but the pure black poisonous flames that wreaked havoc in the spatial fluctuations easily tore through their defensive barriers and burrowed into their bodies when their immortal weapons were suppressed by the spatial fluctuations. Fortunately, the power and energy that the two of them cultivated were very special. They had some resistance to the poisonous energy. Therefore, they were still alive when the valley was calm. However, if they didn't deal with the poison that contained the Darkness Origin Talisman in time, they probably wouldn't be able to live for long. As for the icy soul heavenly silkworm, it had been kept by Shaolin Yu long before Utopia entered the poisonous flames. It had to be said that Utopia's final choice was very wise. He naturally knew the power of the Darkness Origin Talisman very well. He could also predict that this would happen after he detonated the Darkness Origin Talisman. Both Utopia and Mo Shang were dissatisfied with this outcome. This was because they felt that the two bastards should have been blasted to death. They had never used immortal weapons before, so they didn't know the power of immortal weapons. Although Utopia and Mo Shang were only left with their nascent souls, they didn't choose to escape immediately. They wanted to wait and see what would happen to Shaolin Yu and Anya. However, when they saw the outcome clearly and wanted to leave, it was already too late. Shaolin Yu had already released the icy soul heavenly silkworm and tied up their nascent souls. Can you still hold on? Shaolin Yu asked Anya. Right now, the two of them had alternating black and green faces. Even their eyes were the same. At most 4 hours. If I can't deal with the poison, I'll have to give up on my physical body and cultivate as an independent immortal, Anya said gloomily. I'm about the same. Shaolin Yu replied with a bitter smile. Let's hurry up and leave. There's a fifth tribulation expert here. If we wait for him to come, we won't be able to survive, Anya said. At that moment, the two of them rushed out of the formation while protecting each other. The formation that protected the entire valley had been mostly destroyed by the explosion of the Darkness Origin Talisman. Shaolin Yu and Anya could leave easily. However, the moment the two of them got out of the formation, they were surrounded by countless black flood dragons. Audacious bastards, how dare you destroy my clan's forbidden area? Even if you die 10,000 times, you won't be able to atone for your sins. Just as Shaolin Yu and Anya were about to break out of the encirclement, an old but powerful voice came from afar. There was also a mighty pressure that was rapidly approaching. Not good, the fifth tribulation loose demon is coming. Anya narrowed her eyes and said to Shaolin Yu, hurry up and use your immortal weapon to sweep out a circle of fire to block these black flood dragons. I'll cast a spell to take you away. Although Shaolin Yu was suspicious, he still chose to believe in Anya. Risking the danger of not being able to suppress the poisonous fire, he swung the phoenix feather in a circle. The scorching wave of fire blocked the attacks of the black flood dragons and forced them to retreat hundreds of meters. Just as the wave of fire stopped, Anya stopped chanting and making gestures. An ancient scroll that was floating above her head unfolded slowly. It cast a silver light that wrapped her in Shaolin Yu. After the scroll unfolded, it didn't show any beautiful depictions. Instead, there were countless complicated and mysterious spell patterns. At this moment, those spell patterns were rapidly moving in a mysterious trajectory. Aurora, escape! Rise! After Anya shouted, she waved the immortal sword in her hand and slashed at the scroll. The scroll was split into two by the immortal sword. Then, it wrapped Xiao Lingyu and Anya respectively and soared into the sky in a flash. Just as the two streaks of silver light shot into the sky, a black streak of light wrapped in dark green flames tore through the air. It just so happened to sweep past where Xiao Lingyu and his companion had just flown up. However, it was a little too late and did not stop Xiao Lingyu and his companion. After a moment, the two silver lights disappeared in the sky. An old man wearing black scales and with two small dragon horns on his head appeared on the spot. Greetings, First Elder. All the black flood dragons lowered their heads and bowed to the old man. They seemed to be extremely respectful. However, the old man didn't express anything. Not only did he calmly accept everyone's worship, but he also looked proud. Obviously, he was an extremely confident and conceited person. At this moment, the old man looked up at the sky with an extremely ugly expression. After a moment, the corner of his mouth twitched and he let out a sigh. He couldn't find the thieves who had already escaped. He also knew that even if he chased after them now, he wouldn't be able to catch up. The escape technique that the two thieves used just now was very brilliant and extremely fast. The old man didn't chase after the two thieves in the sky. Instead, he first checked the chaotic forbidden area and then flew in the direction of the darkness continent. This time, he wanted to properly settle the score with the darkness headquarters. After all, it was the darkness origin talisman that destroyed the Black Flood Dragon clan's forbidden area. Wrapped in the silver light, Xiao Lingyu and Anya flew into the starry sky together. At this moment, their speed was more than 100 times faster than the supreme-grade air transportation spiritual tool, Star Chaser. This speed surprised Xiao Lingyu very much. However, at the same time, Xiao Lingyu also discovered that the scroll around her was slowly dissipating and the silver light was also gradually fading. This rapid flight lasted for a full 10 minutes before it ended. Xiao Lingyu and Anya were both in a void. However, what shocked Xiao Lingyu was that the powerful 5 Calamity expert didn't chase after them. However, Anya had already fainted. At this moment, her delicate body was lying in the void. Her entire body was covered in sword light and black light, shining nonstop. Xiao Lingyu directly took out Star Chaser and took Anya in. He then controlled Star Chaser to fly to a planet not far away. My cultivation level is on par with hers. The quality of her sword elemental energy and my chaotic energy is also about the same. However, I have a highly toxic body to begin with. It's true that I can withstand the poison better than her. Originally, we could both last for 4 hours. However, we both used the cultivation that we shouldn't have. Now that she has fainted, I can only last for another 2 hours at most. Xiao Lingyu was able to communicate with the key, but he was powerless in this situation. He could only try to invite the Frosty Soul Heavenly Silkworm out and let it spit out the Frost Marrow. He wanted to use the Frost Marrow to completely freeze Anya's body. The Frost Marrow froze Anya, but it only delayed the fire poison's damage to Anya's body. It couldn't freeze the fire poison. However, no matter what, it could at least allow Anya to last for a little longer. Star Chaser landed on the planet and directly plunged into the depths of the earth. Under Xiao Lingyu's instructions, Star Chaser stopped and expanded its internal space, forming a temporary cave abode. The emerald green immortal pearl in the phoenix feather kept releasing cool energy to help Xiao Lingyu's chaotic energy suppress the fire poison. However, it still couldn't stop the fire poison from harming Xiao Lingyu's body. After some thought, Xiao Lingyu suddenly thought of a risky method. Even if it's risky, I still have to give it a try. Otherwise, I won't have any chance. After Xiao Lingyu made his decision, he let the Frosty Soul Heavenly Silkworm take out the 4th Tribulation Loose Demon Mo Shang's Demon Nascent Soul. He then used the silver moon broken blade to release the demon nascent soul's blood. The demon nascent soul of a fourth tribulation loose demon contained a lot of essence blood. Very quickly, Shaolin Yu took out a bathtub-like jade vessel. After letting the frosty soul heavenly silkworm tie up the demon nascent soul again, Shaolin Yu then threw some special materials into it. Although this loose demon's bloodline is also that of a flood dragon, it has a fourth tribulation cultivation. Furthermore, black flood dragons are also highly poisonous creatures. The poison in their body is the same as the poison that is corroding and destroying my body. If I use this loose demon's essence blood to transform my body, I should be able to resolve the danger. No matter if it succeeds or not, this is the only choice I can think of. Whatever, I'll risk it. Chapter 77. After Shaolin Yu entered Anya's body, he held Anya tightly in his arms. Although Anya didn't look very good at the moment, her body was still very warm and soft. Shaolin Yu could feel the smoothness of her skin. Especially when Anya's two full breasts rubbed against his chest, he gradually felt something. Saving a person's life was like putting out a fire. Shaolin Yu didn't have the time to feel anything. After a while, he began to practice the dual cultivation technique. The reason why the dual cultivation technique was a very common technique in the cultivation world was because the process of practicing it was very simple. As long as it was a man and a woman, regardless of their aptitude, they could practice it. However, the effect of practicing it would vary from person to person. Shaolin Yu's power slowly flowed out from his lower body and then flowed from Anya's lower body into her meridians. It led to the circulation of her power. During this process, the two's power merged with each other and refined each other, increasing their power. Shaolin Yu really didn't want to increase his power, but he wasn't very familiar with the dual cultivation technique. Therefore, he could only practice it step by step at the beginning. Under normal circumstances, the dual cultivation technique required two people to cooperate with each other. However, at this moment, Anya couldn't cooperate, but she didn't reject it either. Therefore, Shaolin Yu could only control it. If Shaolin Yu was a demonic cultivator who took aim to nourish Yang, he would give all the benefits to himself. When the cultivation ended, it would be the time of Anya's death. Can I give most of the benefits to this tigress? This way, I don't have to worry about the impending heavenly tribulation. I can also improve her power greatly. When she wakes up, she won't be able to say that I'm taking advantage of her. Shaolin Yu thought so and did so. After a period of familiarization, he began to take the initiative to release his power, allowing it to be consumed continuously in Anya's body. When Anya's power entered his body, he didn't use it all. Instead, he let it go back to Anya's body. Under this cycle, the growth of Shaolin Yu's power slowed down a lot. On the other hand, Anya's power continued to increase. Furthermore, her power and flesh gradually became poisonous. The pure black fire poison that existed in her body was gradually being absorbed by her body. The dual cultivation technique didn't only involve the body, but also the soul. However, Anya's soul was in a self-protecting state. Sealed. It was difficult and dangerous for Shaolin Yu's soul to merge with hers. However, Shaolin Yu had to complete the dual cultivation technique first. Otherwise, the energy and composition of the body would change while the soul remained the same. It would be even more dangerous. The incompatibility between the soul and the body was a taboo for cultivators. If it was light, one would suffer from chi deviation. If it was serious, one's body would explode or one's soul would be destroyed. When Shaolin Yu's power of the soul invaded Anya's consciousness and rushed to the side of Anya's soul, which was shaped like a long sword, immediately released a counterattack of countless small sword-shaped soul energy. Not only did it directly destroy Shaolin Yu's power of the soul, it also rushed into Shaolin Yu's consciousness and pierced into Shaolin Yu's soul. Fortunately, Shaolin Yu had already made the Emerald Immortal Pearl release a cool emerald energy to protect her soul. Anya's counterattack didn't hurt Shaolin Yu. In fact, it quickly merged with Xiao Yu's soul energy. After all, Anya's counterattack was an unconscious counterattack. It wasn't difficult to control it. Xiao Yu then sent their merged souls into Anya's consciousness. This time, because Anya's own power of the soul was present, she didn't suffer any attacks and easily entered Anya's soul. With Xiao Yu's active cooperation, Anya's soul was pulled out a little more. In this way, the dual cultivation technique was on the right track. Xiao Yu didn't reject the advancement of the soul realm. This was because the heavenly tribulation sensed a cultivator's energy waves and not their soul realm. Even if one's cultivation was at the divine realm, as long as one's cultivation wasn't at the peak of the late-stage tribulation passing stage, one wouldn't be able to attract the heavenly tribulation. After 4 hours of dual cultivation, Anya finally absorbed the pure black fire poison in her body and refined it into her flesh and blood. She was no longer in danger, and her body had completely returned to normal. Her skin was no longer black, but as smooth as jade and faintly glowed with a faint fluorescent light. She was warm and fragrant in his arms. Her skin was as smooth as water, her breasts were soft and supple, and her face was flushed red. Xiao Yu finally relaxed and felt a little bit of pleasure. His lower body was wrapped in a moist heat, and a gentle rub was enough to make his whole body feel comfortable. His hand started to rub Anya's back, and then moved to Anya's plump breasts. Xiao Yu, who was gradually losing himself in love, naturally didn't forget to maintain the dual cultivation technique. However, he forgot that Anya could wake up at any time. Since her body was fine and her cultivation and soul realm had increased tremendously, Anya naturally wouldn't be in a coma forever. Not long after Xiao Yu started to enjoy it, Anya woke up. Anya felt that her lower body was being bumped and her body was being hugged tightly. Her breasts were constantly changing shape in a big hand. A masculine scent of a man constantly rushed into her nose. Instantly, Anya felt dizzy and the world turned upside down. She stared with her beautiful eyes but couldn't make a sound. After being stunned for a moment, Anya realized that her body and soul were changing. 2 words immediately appeared in the depths of her soul. Dual cultivation. Since she thought of this, Anya knew why this was happening. She didn't even need to look to know who was doing the dual cultivation with her. Anya heard Xiao Yu's heavy breathing from time to time and felt the hot and hard thing in her body twitching back and forth. She almost wanted to slap Xiao Yu to death. Anya's rationality made her not resist when she woke up. This was because if she resisted, Xiao Yu, who was currently indulging in the pleasure of dual cultivation, would be caught off guard and would definitely be severely injured. Even if she suddenly stopped the dual cultivation, the damage to her would be more severe than the damage to Xiao Yu. He was also trying to save me. He didn't mean to sully me. He was just trying to save me. Save me. Anya closed her eyes again and kept comforting herself in her heart. She was trying to calm herself down and restrain herself. However, this was not something that could be ignored just by closing her eyes. Xiao Yu was enjoying the dual cultivation with all her might. Anya couldn't possibly not feel anything at all. After comforting herself for a while, she gradually immersed herself in the dual cultivation. She placed her hands on Xiao Yu's legs and swam gently on Xiao Yu's back like a fish. She even let out a soft moan from time to time. After a while, Xiao Yu sped up and gradually reached the peak of pleasure. A gush of yang energy gushed out of her body. Anya couldn't hold back either. Her body suddenly froze while she was panting. After releasing a burst of pure yin energy, her body softened and she climbed onto Xiao Yu's shoulder. At this moment, the yin and yang qi essences merged and gathered together. After a while, they flew out of the two's bodies and circled above their heads, turning into a circle of yin and yang fish. Finally, they dispersed abruptly. Waves of holy and vigorous radiance enveloped the two's tightly hugging bodies. The two seemed to have been bathed in holy light. Their expressions were serene, and their souls were comfortable. At this moment, the dual cultivation finally ended. Because it was her first time, it took a little longer. If they were to do it again in the future, it wouldn't take so long. However, the effect would be greatly reduced. You woke up a long time ago? Xiaoling Yu asked softly as she caressed Anya's shoulder. Yes. Anya's mind was numb, and she didn't know what to say. I didn't do it on purpose. What's done can't be undone. What's the point of explaining? Are you afraid that I'll blame you? Anya didn't wait for Xiaoling Yu's explanation and continued. She didn't need to listen to Xiaoling Yu to know what she was going to say. Anya's words made Xiaoling Yu speechless for a long time. He thought to himself, this tigress's words are obviously filled with resentment. Could it be that she's really resigned to her fate just like that? What should I do if she insists that I take responsibility? Thank you for saving me. But how long are you going to hug me for? Anya continued. Xiaoling Yu was embarrassed and quickly let go of her. However, when she left his body, this virgin who had just taken off his virginity hat was obviously reluctant to let her go. Anya took out a clean set of clothes from her storage Dharma treasure and slowly put it on with her back facing Xiaoling Yu. Actually, she could change into a new set of clothes in an instant. However, the atmosphere was a little awkward and she needed some time to sort herself out. This must be fate. I came out this time to train my mind and find some opportunities before the heavenly tribulation. I didn't expect to meet this guy. First, he forced a kiss on me. Then, we went through life and death together. Now, it's even more. This isn't fate. It's the will of the heavens. Actually, this guy isn't that bad. He only used a mere 10 years to reach his current cultivation and strength. I'm afraid that in the entire cultivation world, you won't be able to find an elite that can compare to him. Moreover, this guy isn't a cunning and sinister person. He has pride in his bones, and his mind is very mature and steady. He's an excellent son-in-law. If a cultivator like him were to choose a husband, there wouldn't be many female cultivators in the cultivation world who wouldn't be tempted. It's just that my identity is special, and I shoulder a heavy responsibility. No matter what, he's already my man. This can't be changed. Xiaoling Yu also knew that Anya needed some time to think, so he tactfully didn't say anything. Instead, he carefully felt the progress he had made this time. Although he consciously controlled it, Xiaoling Yu's cultivation had uncontrollably reached the late stage of the tribulation passing stage. As long as he made a little more progress, he would be able to attract the chaos heavenly tribulation. Only by passing the chaos heavenly tribulation could Xiaoling Yu break through to the chaos convergence stage. Originally, he was going to raise his cultivation to the peak of the late stage of the chaos nascent soul stage after he had prepared all the materials for breaking through to the chaos convergence stage. However, now there wasn't much time left for him to prepare the materials. The key was that he still had to find his friends and family. As for his soul, it had been greatly improved at the end of the dual cultivation. It directly reached the level of the middle stage of the Mahayana stage. The originally misty soul form was slowly liquefying. It wouldn't be long before it completely transformed. Anya was the same. Chapter 78. Suddenly, Anya felt that something in her storage magic treasure was vibrating. With a thought, a silver-gray bead appeared in her hand. After she immersed her consciousness into the bead, a message entered her mind. After replying to the message and keeping the bead, Anya said to Xiaoling Yu, "I'm leaving." "Oh." Xiaoling Yu responded subconsciously. Then, she asked, "Leaving? Where to?" "Home," Anya replied calmly, but her back was still facing Xiaoling Yu. "How? Fly across the Milky Way?" Xiaoling Yu asked again. "No, leave by teleportation array." Anya shook her head and said, "No, it's too dangerous at the teleportation array. There must be many experts from the Darkness Continent and Black Flood Dragon waiting for us there. Although our strength has improved a lot, it's better not to take the risk." Xiaoling Yu frowned and rejected firmly. "I'm going, not you," Anya said. "You can't go either," Xiaoling Yu said firmly. "Why not? What does it have to do with you if I take the risk?" Anya asked. "You still want to separate from me at this time?" Xiaoling Yu asked with a bitter smile. "Of course you are you. I am me. Don't think that you can make me become your Tao companion just because you have dual cultivated with me once," Anya replied. Even if you don't like me, I can't let you take the risk. I think we should wait for a while and think of a way to leave when the guards are less vigilant. Xiaoling Yu laughed at herself and then calmly suggested, Haha, you're really concerned about me. We used to be enemies, Anya said with a strange tone. As the saying goes, no discord, no concord. Now, do you still dare to say that we're enemies? Of course, you might think that my concern is unnecessary. It's fine if you don't care, but don't take the risk at this time. The Black Flood Dragon clan has a 5th Tribulation expert, but there are definitely others elsewhere in the Darkness continent. There might even be 6th Tribulation or 7th Tribulation existences. The two of us won't be able to defeat them, Xiaoling Yu said earnestly. If you're scared, you don't have to go. After saying this, Anya left Chasing Star, rushed out of the soil layer, and headed towards the surface of the planet. After talking to Xiaoling Yu, although Anya's tone was calm, her heart was filled with warmth. She was very satisfied with Xiaoling Yu's reaction. Why is this tigress as stubborn as a donkey? Xiaoling Yu cursed and followed behind. He would not let Anya take the risk alone. He had thought about it earlier. Since he and Anya had already done it, it was better for him to take responsibility. He was also very clear that Anya said that she would not rely on him and would not let him take responsibility. This was just a test. He could not really take responsibility. If his woman became someone else's pet in the future, Xiaoling Yu would feel terrible just thinking about it. Since you think it's very dangerous, why did you follow me? Anya asked Xiaoling Yu, who had caught up with her. Don't you think that when you're with me, you'll always be able to avoid danger? When we're together, our luck is not too bad. I believe it will be the same this time. Coincidentally, I'm also in a hurry to leave this place. It seems like a good choice to go with you, Xiaoling Yu said casually, pretending to be casual. Naturally, he would not expose Anya's test, but he would continue acting. Don't blame me if you die, Anya said with a smile. This time, her smile was completely sincere. It was as if the morning glow reflected on the snow. If I die, won't you have to accompany me? Come in. Chaser's speed is very fast. You can save some energy, Xiaoling Yu replied nonchalantly. Then, Chaser fell toward the Darkness continent at full speed. The Icy Soul Heavenly Silkworm did not gain any benefits this time. However, it used its mind to contact Xiaoling Yu. After leaving the Darkness continent, it would cultivate with all its might for a period of time until it refined the entire ice marrow before coming out. Meanwhile, the big snake in the spirit beast bag had already entered a state of cultivation. It was absorbing the dragon essence and dragon soul in the dragon pearl with all its might. However, its cultivation would not take too long. Now that Xiaoling Yu had the fire poison mystical power and the phoenix feather, she would not be afraid of 4th Tribulation scattered immortals. Even if she encountered a 5th Tribulation expert, she would still be able to put up a fight. She did not really need the help of the Icy Soul, Heavenly Silkworm, and the Big Snake. Therefore, she was happy to see them cultivating diligently. When Chaser was not far from the Darkness continent, Anya took out her Supreme Grade Communication Spiritual Pearl. After checking the information inside, she smiled. What are you smiling about? Xiaoling Yu asked curiously. Nothing. Anya shook her head and said. Soon, Chaser flew to the teleportation formation. Just as Xiaoling Yu expected, this place was already heavily guarded. Not only were there human experts wearing black armor and holding black iron spears, there were also dozens of Black Flood Dragon experts with powerful cultivations. The moment Xiaoling Yu and Yi Shiwen appeared, they were surrounded by the experts from the human and Flood Dragon clans. Moreover, from the beginning, the 5th Tribulation expert from the Black Flood Dragon clan and a human 5th Tribulation scattered immortal appeared. They blocked Xiaoling Yu and Yi Shiwen from the front and back. Their thoughts were also locked onto Xiaoling Yu and Yi Shiwen. This time, they would definitely not allow Xiaoling Yu and Yi Shiwen to escape unscathed. Xiaoling Yu immediately became nervous. He was already holding the phoenix feather in his hand, but Anya did not take out her immortal sword. He could not help but think, is this tigress angry because she lost her virginity to me, so she deliberately dragged me to die with her? Why are you so nervous? Anya asked Xiaoling Yu with a smile. Nonsense. How can I not be nervous? It's already a problem whether we can defeat a fourth tribulation scattered immortal, let alone two fifth tribulation experts. Xiaoling Yu said angrily to Anya, who looked relaxed. You first block these two fifth tribulation experts and cover me to kill my way into the teleportation formation, Anya suggested. No way, you think too highly of me, Xiaoling Yu said, dumbfounded. Ha, I'm just kidding, Anya said with a smile. The experts of the two clans surrounding Xiaoling Yu and Anya were very puzzled by their appearance. They felt that there must be a trap, so they did not directly attack. In the eyes of the two fifth tribulation experts, since they had already surrounded the two of them, it was better to see what they had up their sleeves. They had suffered such heavy injuries, but they had actually recovered in such a short time. Moreover, they had boldly run to the teleportation formation and walked right into their trap. No one would believe that they had not made any preparations. Just when the experts of the two clans were about to lose their patience and were about to attack, a white light suddenly flashed from the teleportation formation. For cultivators appeared in the formation. Why are they here? Everyone looked at the teleportation formation. Xiaoling Yu exclaimed in surprise and then looked at Anya. Anya did not look surprised at all. It could be seen that these four people were summoned by her. Xiaoling Yu was familiar with three of the four people. They were Uncle Luo, Gao Pinger from the Cloud Gathering House, and Aunt 18, the individual immortal. However, there was an old man who Xiaoling Yu did not know. The old man was wearing a white robe made of coarse cloth, but his figure was the opposite of Aunt 18's. Aunt 18 had a stooped figure, but he was 8 feet tall, with broad shoulders and a round waist. There were no wrinkles on his face, and he looked very ruddy. His snow-white long hair fell to his thighs. The old man took the lead to walk out of the teleportation formation. Then he stepped on the void and slowly rose into the air. Greetings, fellow Taoists. I'm Jihe. The old man cupped his hands and said to the two fifth tribulation experts in the air. At this time, the two fifth tribulation experts narrowed their eyes and used their thoughts to spy on the newcomer's strength. However, to their surprise, they could not see through the newcomer's cultivation. After being surprised for a while, they naturally did not dare to neglect and saluted back at once. What brings you to the Dark Continent, fellow Taoist Ji Ming? The fifth tribulation individual demon asked politely. Ah, I'm here to pick up these two juniors, Jihe said with a smile. The expressions of the two fifth tribulation strongmen changed greatly, and they didn't know how to continue the conversation. This old man who called himself G, he was definitely a sixth tribulation loose immortal, or even stronger. Strong men with this kind of cultivation would be respected and courteous in any cultivation continent. Haha, I didn't expect that after 500 years of closed-door training, I would be lucky enough to see a seventh tribulation expert. Just when the two fifth tribulation experts were hesitating, a hearty and heroic voice came from afar, which actually dispersed all the clouds within hundreds of miles. Seventh tribulation? Except for Anya. Everyone was shocked, including Xiaoling Yu. When they heard the two words seventh tribulation, they looked at the tall and sturdy old man with a bit of awe. However, since he could see through Jihe's cultivation from afar, the expert who was rushing over was probably not below the seventh tribulation. In just a few breaths' time, an old man in black armor with a very thin figure and face slowly flew over. They were both old men, but Jihe looked like he was in his 70s in the secular world, while this thin old man looked at most in his 50s. I've heard that there are countless experts on the continents of the several major attributes, including seventh tribulation and eighth tribulation experts. It seems that the rumors are true. Jihe saluted the thin old man with his fists and said calmly, Haha, it's our honor that fellow Taoist Ji is able to grace the darkness continent with your presence. However, I heard from disciples below that these two little friends have caused a great disturbance in our darkness continent. I heard that not only did they kill many experts of the darkness continent, they even destroyed the Black Flood Dragon tribe's graveyard. I wonder if fellow Taoist G is prepared to deal with the aftermath of this visit. Although the skinny old man spoke with a smile, he had no intention of backing down. Then please find a quiet place to talk. I promise to give you a satisfactory explanation. G nodded and replied. The thin old man waved his arm, and a magic treasure in the shape of a small house slowly emerged. Then, the magic treasure expanded into a 3-story pavilion in a flash. Fellow Taoist, please follow me to my humble abode. The thin old man opened the door of the pavilion and said to Ji-hee, Haha, I didn't expect that not only would I meet an expert of the same generation, but I would also be lucky enough to see an immortal mansion. This trip is really worthwhile. Ji-hee laughed and said as he strode into the pavilion without hesitation. Did you invite that tall old man? Shaoling Yu asked Anya. Chapter 79. No one knew what Ji-hee and the thin old man talked about in the immortal mansion. In short, when the two came out, they were all smiling, and the thin old man also very politely sent Shaoling Yu and the others into the transmission formation. Although the masters of the Darkness Continent felt strange, they didn't dare to ask. Even the 5th Tribulation Master of the Black Flood Dragon clan just frowned and didn't say anything. The transmission soon ended, and Shaoling Yu and the others left the Darkness Continent. The transmission formation on the Darkness Continent was not like the transmission formation on the Transit Planet, which only had 2 coordinates of the transmission destination. The destination of the transmission this time was chosen by Ji-hee. After the transmission ended, everyone walked out of the transmission formation. The vicinity of this transmission formation was very normal. There was a large square, and there were also countless practitioners waiting in line for the transmission formation. Ji-hee led everyone out of the transmission formation square slowly and found a secluded place to stop. 6th Uncle, you and Aunt 18 can go to the transmission formation square and wait for a moment. I'll go find you later, Anya said politely to Ji-hee and Aunt 18. Okay, Ji-hee responded, and then led Aunt 18 and the other 2 to the transmission formation square. It seemed that they would continue to take the transmission formation to hurry on their journey. A 7th Tribulation Master is so obedient to you. I'm afraid your identity is very unusual. After Ji-hee and the others walked away, Shaoling Yu said first. Why, do you feel pressured? Anya asked with a smile. Pressured? A little, but it's not very big. Shaoling Yu nodded first, and then shook his head. He had even seen a God-level master, and his master was said to be one of the best among the God-level masters. Shaoling Yu naturally wouldn't feel pressured just because of a 7th Tribulation Master. Shaoling Yu was actually a person with a strong background, but his background couldn't be used by him. I know, you're not an ordinary person. You came from Earth and made such amazing progress in such a short time. Let's not flatter each other. Your 6th uncle and Aunt 18 are still waiting for you. Shaoling Yu waved his hand and said, You've lost your patience so soon? All right, I'll get straight to the point. Anya paused for a moment and then continued, Actually, it's nothing important. If you have time in the future, you can come to the Langhuang continent to find me. The Langhuang continent seems to be located in the chaotic astral sea of the cultivation world. Not only is the environment in the starry sky harsh, even the land on the continent is not a good place. Shaoling Yu remembered that this cultivation world was mentioned in a book. So, if you're not strong enough, you'd better not go there, Anya said. Haha, strength is only one aspect. You also need to have sufficient financial resources, Shaoling Yu said with a smile. Financial resources? Anya was confused. If you don't have enough money, how can you have a betrothal gift? Shaoling Yu raised her eyebrows and said, You want to marry me? Anya was surprised. As long as you're willing to marry me, Shaoling Yu replied. Then we'll see what kind of betrothal gift you have, Anya said as if she was joking. If you need anything in the future, you can come to me at any time, Shaoling Yu said very honestly as she took out her communication spiritual bead. Although he knew that Anya had a strong background, he still felt that it was necessary to show some appreciation. As long as you don't refuse. Anya also took out her communication spiritual bead. They each left a soul imprint in each other's communication spiritual beads. Then Anya took out the treasure that looked like a metal piece from the Black Dragon tomb and said, "I'll give this to you before we leave. I don't think I'll have time to study its use in the future." Haha, is this a token of love? Xiaoling Yu did not stand on ceremony and did not forget to make fun of her. In his opinion, Anya must not be short of treasures since she could invite a tribulation master. "Then what kind of token of love are you going to give me?" Anya asked with a smile. "I don't have any powerful treasures that can catch your eye," Xiaoling Yu said as he shook his head, looking as if he was very stingy. "Your broken sword is not bad. It's small and exquisite, and it's of extraordinary quality. It's the most suitable token of love," Anya said after thinking for a while. For some reason, Xiaoling Yu suddenly frowned when he heard Anya's words. Vaguely, he seemed to have thought of something, but he could not grasp it. Seeing Xiaoling Yu's expression, Anya said again, "I'm just kidding. Your broken sword must be a gift from someone else. I don't dare to have extravagant hopes. It was indeed a gift from someone else, so it's not suitable to be a token of love." Xiaoling Yu first nodded in response, then took out a supreme-grade spiritual treasure. This supreme-grade spiritual treasure was a very exquisite and beautiful hairpin. It looked as if it was carved out of crystal. It was an offensive spiritual treasure. It was obtained from the treasure vault in the Rockfall Desert. Xiaoling Yu had the phoenix feather for attacking, and this spiritual treasure was too feminine, so he did not refine it. Therefore, he had not taken it out to use. It was very suitable to give it to Anya at this time, although Anya had the immortal sword for attacking, and basically did not need other spiritual treasures. At least the exquisite appearance of this hairpin was very pleasing to girls. "Haha, this is not bad. I like it." After Anya took the hairpin, she quickly ran to the teleportation array. In fact, she did not like to dress herself up. She had always dressed very simply, without makeup or accessories. She even always wore simple warrior's clothes. However, this hairpin was given by Xiaoling Yu, so its meaning was different. Just now, the two of them talked about the token of love very casually, as if two old friends were joking. However, who could tell what they were thinking in their hearts, especially girls whose thoughts were hard to guess? Xiaoling Yu spoke casually, but when it came to parting, he still felt a little reluctant. The scenes of him and Inya fighting together appeared in his mind. There were even scenes of him and Inya hugging each other and rubbing each other's ears. However, Xiaoling Yu knew that it was not the time for him to be sentimental, and he did not have the capital to be sentimental. A girl like Anya was not easy to possess. 7 Tribulation Masters were the real powerhouses in the cultivation world. They did not need to pay the entrance fee to enter the city, and they did not need to wait in line to use the teleportation array. Under the guidance of Ji-He, Anya and the others were quickly teleported away. "Sai, I'm alone again." Xiaoling Yu was depressed for a moment. Then he flew into the sky. In midair, Xiaoling Yu released his consciousness and scanned the surroundings. Seeing that there was no one around, he then took out the tracking mirror. After a while, Xiaoling Yu's expression showed disappointment again. There was still no sign of the target he was looking for in this cultivation world. Xiaoling Yu did not leave directly. Instead, he descended from the sky and walked towards the big city not far from the teleportation array. This was a very prosperous cultivation world. It was very vast, and the overall number of cultivators and average strength far exceeded that of the Feiyu continent. However, it was not completely controlled by a big force like the Darkness continent. There were many sects here, and the cultivation system was very heterogeneous. This was why hundreds of flowers could bloom and hundreds of schools of thought could compete. Generally, the large cities built next to the continent's teleportation array were the largest cities or the most prosperous cities on the continent. Because this big city was prosperous, Xiaoling Yu chose to go in and take a look. After walking around the city for more than 4 hours, Xiaoling Yu walked into an upper-class shop. He walked directly to the counter and asked the shopkeeper with a goatee, "Shopkeeper, do you have any top-grade materials for refining weapons with wind, thunder, or space attributes?" The shopkeeper raised his head slightly and said politely, "Sir, our shop is the biggest material shop in this city." Naturally, We have many top-grade materials of various attributes. However, the price of the top-grade materials, Xiaoling Yu casually threw a storage bracelet on the counter and said calmly, "Spirit stones are not a problem. The key is that the goods have to be good." There were no restrictions on the storage bracelet, and it was an ownerless item. The shopkeeper's consciousness could easily scan the storage space inside. After scanning it, the shopkeeper's expression changed slightly. He immediately stood up from the counter and said respectfully to Xiaoling Yu, "Sir, please follow me upstairs to discuss in detail." Xiaoling Yu waved his hand and said, "I'll have 3 top-grade materials with wind, thunder, and space attributes. As for the price, you can decide. As long as it's not outrageous, it's fine." The shopkeeper nodded and went upstairs alone. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, he came back and placed the 9 materials that Xiaoling Yu needed in a box on the table. Xiaoling Yu checked them one by one and nodded with satisfaction. Then he paid 5 million top-grade spirit stones. He didn't leave immediately. Instead, he took out a thin piece of paper and said to the shopkeeper, "Shopkeeper, please take a look again. Do you have the materials on this list in your shop?" The shopkeeper took the thin paper and looked carefully. Then he shook his head and said to Xiaoling Yu, "These things are either very rare materials in the cultivation world or something I've never heard of. Although our shop has been in business for many years and has accumulated a lot of resources, we don't have any of the treasures on this list." Xiaoling Yu was slightly disappointed. Then he put away the materials he had bought and left the city. After leaving the city, Xiaoling Yu waited in line at the teleportation array square for an hour before he took the teleportation array and left the cultivation continent. Xiaoling Yu's main purpose in traveling the cultivation world was to find his relatives and friends. Since there were no traces of them here, he naturally had to go to other continents. He was not far from the heavenly tribulation and didn't have much time to waste. Not long after Xiaoling Yu left, 2 powerhouses in black robes walked out of the teleportation array and flew into the sky not far away. "That kid should have used the tracking spirit mirror once here," said one of the powerhouses in black robes. In his hand, there was a transparent crystal ball the size of a fist. At this moment, the crystal ball was constantly shining with rings of colorful light. "I wonder if he's still on this continent," said the other powerhouse in black robes. Chapter 80. Xiaoling Yu searched 8 more cultivation continents in one go, but he didn't find any traces of his relatives or friends. However, he found a material he needed to prepare for breaking through to the chaotic convergence period. The material was called the 3 Lives Flower, and it was necessary for Xiaoling Yu to break through to the chaotic convergence period. However, it was currently in a very high-grade material store. Xiaoling Yu also asked for the price, and the shopkeeper gave the price of 8 million top-grade spirit stones. Xiaoling Yu didn't have such a large number of top-grade spirit stones, so he could only take a glance at it first. After confirming that it was the 3 Lives Flower, he remembered the store. "It's time to get some spirit stones. This material alone costs 8 million top-grade spirit stones. If I want to collect all the materials, I'm afraid that I'll need at least 50 million top-grade spirit stones." After Xiaoling Yu left the city, he directly took the teleportation array and left this cultivation continent called the Lihan continent. Next, Xiaoling Yu teleported more than 20 times in a row. Each time he arrived at a cultivation continent, he only stayed for at most 10 minutes. He used the tracking mirror to search for people, but he still didn't find any traces of his relatives or friends. Finally, Xiaoling Yu arrived at a cultivation continent called the Wanling continent. He still routinely searched for traces of his relatives and friends. After finding nothing, he didn't immediately leave. Instead, he walked to the big city next to him. Not long after, Xiaoling Yu came out of the city, but there was an extra jade slip in his hand. Xiaoling Yu scanned the jade slip with his mind and smiled with satisfaction. "This map jade slip is very detailed. It saved me a lot of trouble." After speaking, he rode the star-chasing star and quickly flew in the southeast direction of the teleportation array. However, not long after, Xiaoling Yu suddenly flew the star-chasing star toward the starry sky of the Wanling continent. For hours later, the star-chasing star stopped on an uninhabited planet. First, he circled around the planet. After confirming that there was nothing strange here, he let the star-chasing star fall deep underground. After hiding tens of thousands of feet underground, Xiaolingyu stabilized the star-chasing star and let it expand into a simple temporary cave residence. First, she sat cross-legged in meditation for a while. When her mind was clear and she was in peak condition, Xiaolingyu took out the wind, lightning, and space materials that she had purchased earlier. Primal chaos, true fire, rise. Xiaolingyu cried out softly, and a ball of fire with 3 colors of blue, red, and black immediately appeared in her palm. This was the primordial fire formed after Xiaolingyu's body had absorbed the pure black fire poison. Then, Xiaolingyu threw the materials one by one into the primal chaos true fire. What was surprising was that even the best materials melted rapidly under the primal chaos true fire's burning. The hard materials liquefied into balls of pure liquid energy. 4 hours later, Xiaolingyu finished refining all 9 materials. However, she said unhappily, if the quality of my chaotic force was a little higher, it wouldn't have taken me so long at all. However, this is not bad. With these top-grade materials, I can refine a pair of very high-grade wings for myself. After comforting herself, Xiaolingyu took out the pair of silver wings. This pair of silver wings came from the desolate ancient forest in the Feiyu continent. It was left behind by the extremely fast leopard demon. Xiaolingyu had never had the time to deal with it. Now that he had something important to do, he thought of refining it to help himself. The silver wings contained the power of space. Once they were activated, they would automatically absorb the power of space in the cultivation world to continuously improve their quality. This was what Xiaolingyu valued. If this pair of wings could not be improved, it would not be of much use to him. Chaotic nascent soul out. Xiaolingyu activated his cultivation method again. The chaotic nascent soul in his dantian slowly appeared above his head. Then, it spat out a ball of primal chaos true fire to envelop the pair of silver wings. Then, Xiaolingyu threw the pure energy balls he had refined into the silver wings one by one. Under the burning of the primal chaos true fire, the energy balls merged into the silver wings. In fact, Xiaolingyu was not refining a magic treasure. He was just modifying or improving it. The wind and thunder attribute materials could increase the speed of the silver wings. The spatial attribute materials could increase the storage of the silver wings' power of space. It could also increase the speed at which the silver wings absorb the power of space from the outside world. Xiaolingyu was not proficient in formations and restrictions. Originally, the best way to refine and improve the silver wings was to engrave some miniature high-level formations and restrictions. However, he could only put this thought aside for now. After all, there would be opportunities in the future. It only took half a day to complete the improvement of the silver wings. Next, Xiaolingyu compared the introduction of some ancient books and opened 2 meridians in his waist and shoulders. Then, he put the silver wings and the chaotic nascent soul into his dantian. In his dantian, the chaotic nascent soul continued to spit out primal chaos true fire to refine the silver wings' quality. Occasionally, it would spit out a ball of Xiaolingyu's blood essence and merge it with the silver wings. This was the refining process. After refining, the silver wings could be connected to Xiaolingyu's mind. The entire refining process lasted for a full month. Only then did Xiaolingyu call it a day and let Zhuai Xing fly to the surface of the planet. Xiaolingyu walked out of Zhuai Xing and silently chanted the words, "Wings of extreme speed." Immediately, a pair of silver wings appeared on his shoulders. This pair of silver wings was 10 feet long and 2 feet wide. The whole body was made of silver feathers. Not only was there a silver light shining on the surface, but there were also faint traces of blue and purple flowing. Xiaolingyu had already become very valiant because of the several transformations of his body and spirit. With the addition of this pair of eye-catching silver wings, he immediately became like a god. His temperament and aura had been invisibly improved by a lot. Wings of extreme speed, rise. Xiao Yu chanted again. His wings only trembled slightly, and his figure moved tens of thousands of feet in a very short time. Such extreme speed actually made him feel very uncomfortable. After the movement ended, his body staggered involuntarily. The speed of this short-distance movement is much faster than the teleportation of a master of the Deshang stage. After all, any master of the Deshang stage needs some time to prepare to teleport. But my extreme speed movement is almost everywhere within 100 miles of my body. After Xiao Yu steadied himself, his face was full of satisfaction. He only needed a little more time to adapt and practice a little more, and he would definitely be able to control this pair of silver wings that he named Wings of Extreme Speed as he pleased. In the next 3 days, Xiao Yu did not leave the planet and kept practicing using the wings of extreme speed. Not long after Xiao Yu arrived at the Wangwan continent, 2 powerhouses in black robes followed. They first took the searching spirit bead to the space where Xiao Yu used the tracking spirit mirror. After that, they searched the Wangwan continent for a while. Naturally, they could not find Xiao Yu in the distant starry sky. That kid has been constantly on the move. He has not stayed in any of the cultivation continents for more than half a day. Every time he arrived at a continent, he would use the tracking spirit mirror. But this time, more than a month has passed, and that kid has not used the tracking spirit mirror again. He should have stayed here. One of the black-robed powerhouses said, "It is very likely, but the Wangwan continent is very large. Even with our cultivation, it is extremely difficult to find him." The other black-robed powerhouse said, "Of course, it is also possible that he has already gone to other cultivation continents. It is just that he did not use the tracking spirit mirror." The black-robed powerhouse who spoke first said, "Our task is a little too depressing. It can't be helped. The 3 of us came out together. Lao Bei was too careless. Not only did he lose the sect master's tracking spirit mirror, but he also disintegrated his heavenly demon and escaped with only his nascent soul. Don't blame Lao Bei. After he returned, his nascent soul was directly destroyed by the sect master. We are very lucky that we were only sent to find the tracking spirit mirror. But if we can't find the tracking spirit mirror, I'm afraid our end will not be much better than Lao Bei's. Yes, even if we find that kid, he has an immortal weapon and a very powerful ice silkworm pet. We may not be able to win easily. You don't have to worry too much about this." Lao Bei said that the kid's cultivation is not high. Even if he has an immortal weapon, he can't be that strong. I am at the 3rd tribulation, and you're close to the 5th tribulation. If the 2 of us work together, we will definitely be able to win. Xiao Yu didn't know that the experts of the Black Blood Devil sect were chasing after him. After he became proficient in using the wings of extreme speed, he controlled the chasing star to fall towards the Wanling continent. When he was 1,000 feet away from the ground, he stopped the chasing star's descent and continued to fly towards the southeast. One day later, Chasing Star carried Xiao Yu to the eastern sea of the Wangwan continent. Xiao Yu took out the jade slip of the Wangwan continent's map. After carefully looking at it, he let Chasing Star slightly change its direction and rush towards the depths of the sea. After half a day, Xiao Yu stopped again. At this time, he had already arrived at a very famous place in the eastern sea. The cultivators of the Wangwan continent called this place the Hidden Immortal Sea region. There was a legend on the Wangwan continent. It said that before the worlds were separated, there was an extremely powerful immortal who cultivated here. After the worlds were separated, that immortal naturally went to the immortal world, but left behind his own immortal mansion. Inside the immortal mansion, there were very powerful immortal weapons and magic treasures, as well as a large amount of spirit stones and immortal stones. If there was no basis for this legend, naturally, no cultivators would believe it. However, for countless years, in the Hidden Immortal Sea region, every few hundred years, there would be a multicolored light with vast and mighty immortal might that soared into the sky. Thus, everyone firmly believed in this legend. It was also because of this legend and reality that the hidden immortal sea region had always been a very prosperous area on the Wanwan continent. There were countless cultivators on the large and small islands here, waiting for the immortal mansion to appear. This place had immortal spiritual energy, so was naturally loved by the great ascension stage and loose immortal experts. They opened immortal mansions on the islands here, and even established their own sects. Of course, it was said that there were many extremely powerful experts hiding here. However, they had searched for the secret of the immortal mansion for countless years, but they did not have the slightest harvest. Even when the immortal aura soared into the sky, they were still unable to find the location of the immortal mansion. It could be said that the hidden immortal sea region had been searched by countless cultivators over and over again. However, those experts who came in high spirits all returned in disappointment. Chapter 81. When Jiang Lanyue traveled the cultivation world, she had once visited the wandering continent. Naturally, she would go to the famous hidden immortal sea region to check it out. According to what Jiang Lanyue said, the hidden immortal sea region indeed had a lot of secrets. However, it wasn't an immortal mansion, nor was it an immortal item. Instead, it was an independent space opened up by an ancient immortal. The immortal light that shot into the sky every few hundred years was because the independent space hadn't been taken care of for many years. It gradually became unstable and a spatial crack appeared. As long as the immortal spiritual energy in the independent space fluctuated slightly, it would rush through the spatial crack and form a multicolored light that soared into the sky. The reason why the hidden immortal sea region had immortal spiritual energy was also because of this. The spatial crack would open and close. When it opened, it would close within 1 or 2 breaths of time. When it closed, there was simply no trace of it. Moreover, it would constantly change its position. Therefore, even if a 9th tribulation expert of the cultivation world came here, they wouldn't be able to find the slightest clue. However, for an expert like Jiang Lanyue who came from the God realm, she only needed to sweep her gaze and she would be able to find the spatial crack. Naturally, she would also be able to easily enter that independent space. The area of that independent space was very large. Jiang Lanyue said that to be able to open up such a large independent space parallel to the cultivation world, even if it was an immortal at that time, it would be an extremely powerful immortal. Moreover, it would need to be proficient in spatial magic or be able to use large amounts of spatial energy. Within the range of the hidden immortal sea region, there were many experts. Even if Xiao Lingyu's strength wasn't bad, he still didn't dare to be impudent here. Once he attracted attention, it would be too difficult for him to escape unscathed. It was precisely because there were many experts here that the cultivators here were relatively low-key. They wouldn't easily cause trouble, and they also wouldn't easily release their intent to spy on others. Xiao Lingyu silently shuttled through various areas of the hidden immortal sea region. Every time he arrived at a place, he would detonate a spatial-type magic treasure. The only spatial-type magic treasure that Xiao Lingyu could take out in large quantities were those storage magic treasures. Fortunately, he already had a lot of storage magic treasures. Moreover, he had purchased a lot of them from the markets of those islands in the hidden immortal sea region. He didn't have to worry about not having enough. When a space-type magic treasure exploded, it would cause the space in the cultivation world nearby to fluctuate, which meant that the space would be unstable. If the space crack was nearby, it would be exposed. This was the best way for Jiang Lanyue to tell Xiao Lingyu how to locate the space crack. The area of the hidden immortal sea region wasn't small. Originally, it would be very difficult for Xiao Lingyu to use this method to find the spatial crack. However, Jiang Lanyue said that the nearby seawater where the spatial crack was located would be abnormally violent. There would often be stormy waves. This was because even if the spatial crack was in a closed state, it would still fluctuate from time to time, causing the seawater to roar. The roaring of seawater was a very common thing in the sea. It wouldn't be noticed by others. The slight spatial fluctuations were also very difficult for cultivators to detect. After all, not a single cultivator dared to sweep their intent across a large area of the hidden immortal sea region. This was because it would definitely cause the dissatisfaction of other experts. With this clue, Xiaoling Yu could save a lot of time. If he didn't have this clue, not only would he have to waste a lot of time, he also wouldn't have that many spatial-type magic treasures for him to squander. It would be even easier for people to suspect him. After destroying more than 300 storage magic treasures and spending nearly half a month, he finally found the location of the spatial crack. With a bang, a storage belt exploded on the surface of the sea. The sound of the explosion was masked by the roar of the sea. However, a spatial crack that was over 3 feet long and 2 feet wide flashed before Xiaoling Yu's eyes in an obvious manner. I finally found it. Xiaoling Yu couldn't hide his joy and let out a long sigh. However, finding the spatial crack was only the beginning. The next step was to enter the spatial crack. Entering the spatial crack was a very dangerous thing. Although the spatial crack was equivalent to a spatial passage, the spatial energy inside was unstable. There were even spatial turbulences or spatial storms wreaking havoc. Regarding this, Jiang Langyue didn't have any way to cheat for Xiaoling Yu. What she told Xiaoling Yu was that when passing through the spatial crack, he must be fast. He must be faster than the spatial turbulences or spatial storms. Or he must have a high-quality defensive immortal artifact. Xiaoling Yu didn't have a high-quality defensive immortal artifact. Therefore, before coming to the hidden immortal sea region, he made improvements to the silver wings. After Xiaoling Yu made some preparations, he first carefully searched the surroundings. Then he took out the phoenix feather. Vigorous primal chaos energy unceasingly poured into the phoenix feather, causing the phoenix feather to explode with brilliance. It illuminated Xiaoling Yu's face until it was completely red. "Open for me." After a few moments, Xiaoling Yu swung the phoenix feather and fiercely swept it towards the spatial crack. A scorching wave of fire swept forward. Whoosh! The scorching wave of fire flew into the distance. Wherever it passed, the space faintly fluctuated. The spatial crack once again appeared. However, this time, it was even clearer than before. Moreover, after it appeared, there was immediately a vast and mighty immortal aura that soared into the sky. Xiaoling Yu was already prepared for the immortal aura. Therefore, he wasn't pushed away. Wings of extreme speed rise. A pair of silver wings appeared behind Xiaoling Yu. Then, with a light flap, Xiaoling Yu's body turned into a silver light and rushed into the spatial crack. Not long after Xiaoling Yu entered the spatial crack, several experts rushed over. They looked at the spatial crack that didn't disappear for a long time and the immortal aura that shot out from it. They were all abnormally shocked. Back then, Jiang Langyue had also warned Xiaoling Yu that the spatial crack was originally unstable. In the past, it only appeared and disappeared because of the impact from the inside. If it was forcefully broken open from the outside, it wouldn't immediately disappear. Instead, it would exist for a period of time. During this period of time, if there were experts continuously attacking the spatial crack, it wouldn't disappear. The cultivators that rushed over first were all experts with extremely high cultivation. They naturally recognized that it was a spatial crack in front of them. However, they also knew that spatial cracks usually overflowed with spatial energy. There wouldn't be any immortal aura shooting out. Therefore, they had reason to believe that there was a treasure inside. In addition to the legend of the hidden immortal sea region, they were unable to restrain their desire to seize the treasure. One after another, they rushed towards the spatial crack. The immortal aura of the hidden immortal sea region was like an enormous sword piercing the sky. Almost all the cultivators in the wandering immortal sea region were able to see it. The two loose devil experts from the Black Blood Demon naturally also saw it. Without the slightest hesitation, the two of them quickly rushed over. From their point of view, if Xiaoling Yu didn't leave the wandering immortal sea region, he would definitely be attracted by such a large movement. Perhaps this would be a golden opportunity for them to complete their mission. The wings of extreme speed could definitely be said to be extremely fast in short-distance sprinting. It was still possible to dodge spatial turbulence and spatial storms. However, if the wings of extreme speed only had extreme speed, Xiao Lingyu wouldn't dare to take the risk, because if his speed was too fast, he could avoid danger. However, he could also plunge into danger head-on. Furthermore, the wings of extreme speed could absorb and contain spatial energy. This was one of the reasons why Xiao Lingyu dared to barge into this spatial crack. Whoosh! Xiao Lingyu misjudged the timing when he was flying forward, causing him to plunge into a spatial turbulence. The berserk spatial energy instantly surrounded him. However, after he activated the spatial energy absorption function of the wings of extreme speed with his primal chaos force, the spatial energy was instantly absorbed by the wings of extreme speed. It wasn't able to threaten Xiao Lingyu in the slightest. Xiao Lingyu encountered this situation 3 times. Just when the wings of extreme speed couldn't contain any more spatial energy, Xiao Lingyu successfully rushed out of the spatial crack. He entered an independent space opened by an ancient immortal expert. I'm finally in. If this spatial crack was just a little longer and the situation inside was just a little worse, I'm afraid I would have been trapped in spatial turbulence forever. Xiao Lingyu muttered to himself with lingering fear. Then, he began to observe the situation around him. In the distance, there was a blue sky and white clouds, clear water and green mountains. Nearby, there were fresh flowers, green grass, streams, and ancient trees. Zhang Lanyue had said before that there were many rare treasures here. There were high-quality spiritual flowers and spiritual herbs everywhere. There were also many immortal items. If a cultivator could plunder this place, they could definitely quickly become a millionaire in the cultivation world. There weren't any powerful magic treasures here. When the ancient immortal separated the worlds, he couldn't take this space away. However, he could take away the treasures he collected here. He would only leave behind those things that he didn't even care about. However, the things that weren't worth mentioning in the eyes of the ancient immortal were incomparably precious to the cultivators of the cultivation world. Xiao Lingyu also knew that although everything in this space was real, it also formed a psychedelic formation. Moreover, it was a psychedelic formation set up by the ancient immortal. Even if it had been abandoned for countless years, the psychedelic formation was certainly not as powerful as it used to be. It was estimated that it could easily trap and kill the top experts in the cultivation world. The main purpose of this illusory formation was to protect the core area of this space. Cultivators who were lucky enough to enter this space wouldn't be able to find that area at all. This was because everyone couldn't see with their eyes, and their consciousness would be distorted by the illusory formation. Xiao Lingyu spent so much effort to get here. Naturally, he wouldn't give up on the core area, because the real treasures were there. If Xiao Lingyu could take more than half of the treasures outside the core area, he could obtain a shocking amount of wealth. However, this wasn't enough to satisfy him. He followed Zhang Lanyue's instructions and first flew to the mountainside not far away. After seeing a 3-foot green stone tablet without any words, he jumped up and stood on it. Then he slowly rose into the air and stopped when the bottom of his feet was 981 feet away from the top of the green stone tablet. Xiao Lingyu activated the star-chasing star. First, it moved forward 50 kilometers, then 70 kilometers to the right, 40 kilometers forward, and 60 kilometers to the right. Chapter 82. Xiao Lingyu wasn't too anxious. Although he knew that all the experts in the hidden Immortal Sea region and even the entire Wangguan continent would definitely rush over, and it might even be experts from other continents who would come after hearing the news, it was still unknown whether they could safely pass through the spatial crack. Even if they entered, they would be trapped by the illusion array here. In Xiao Lingyu's view, those cultivators who knew nothing about this place could only circle around the periphery of this independent space and look for some ordinary goods. Of course, these ordinary goods were only compared to the treasures in the core area of this independent space. If they were compared to the heavenly treasures of the cultivation world, then their value would be extraordinary. Xiaoling Yu had Jiang Lanyu as guidance, so naturally, he wouldn't be reluctant to leave the treasures outside. After chasing the stars and flying along a specific route for the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the scenery in front of Xiaoling Yu suddenly changed. From the beautiful scenery of a paradise, it became a hazy and illusory world. No matter how I look at it, this place looks like the celestial realm in the TV series Journey to the West. Looking at the pavilions and towers in the clouds, Xiaoling Yu clicked his tongue in admiration. Because it had been abandoned for countless years, there wasn't the slightest movement here. Those pavilions and buildings also seemed very lonely. There was no illusion array here, nor was there any danger. When the ancient immortal left, he wanted to completely abandon this place. He took away most of the treasures here that were useful to him. Naturally, he wouldn't set up any powerful restrictions or formations here, nor would he leave behind any powerful immortal beasts to guard this place. It was also because there wasn't any danger here that Xiaoling Yu chose to come here to search for treasures and not the other places that Jiang Lanyu had mentioned. The area of the core area wasn't small, spanning hundreds of miles. There were more than a dozen large and small medicinal gardens, but most of them were already abandoned. Only a few medicinal gardens still had some medicinal herbs. These medicinal herbs were of a much higher grade than the heavenly treasures outside, and had been nurtured for countless years. Although the ancient immortal didn't care for them, they were incomparably precious to Xiaoling Yu. He didn't distinguish between them and directly collected them all. After more than 4 hours, Xiaoling Yu finally cleared out all the medicinal herbs in the core area. Her face was full of pride. These herbs might not be of use to him, but any one of them would definitely be worth more than 1,000,000 top-grade spirit stones. Most of the herbs were the main materials for refining top-grade spirit pills, and a small number of herbs faintly overflowed with immortal spiritual power. They should be immortal-grade herbs that could be used to refine immortal pills. What made Xiaoling Yu the happiest was that he had found 3 of the materials he needed to break through the chaos convergence period. The medicinal herbs have been collected clean. Next, it's time to take a look at the pill room and the tool room. Xiaoling Yu aimed at the area where the buildings were more concentrated and slowly flew over. Using the information provided by Jiang Lanyu, he easily found the pill room and the equipment room. There were no finished pills or magic treasures in the pill room and the tool room. There were only some ancient books that were useless to the ancient immortal. These books were all inscribed on jade slips, and the jade slips were very casually placed on a jade platform that looked like a desk. In addition to the jade slips, there were many cauldrons in the pill room and the tool room. They were all placed quietly in the room, without the slightest fluctuation of power, and all of them looked unremarkable. Xiaoling Yu didn't stay in the pill room and the tool room for too long, but he put away the jade slips and cauldrons in his storage magic treasure. According to Jiang Lanyu, the pill refining and tool refining methods inscribed in the jade slips were of a very high level. Although the cauldrons were abandoned by the ancient immortal, any one of them was definitely in existence that refinement masters or even great grandmasters of the cultivation world would scramble for. At this moment, Xiaoling Yu's goal of coming to this isolated space abandoned by the ancient immortal had already been accomplished, but he still hesitated. Xiaoling Yu unconsciously walked in front of a tall mountain. Jiang Lanyu once said that if Xiaoling Yu could come here one day, he must not approach this tall mountain. This tall mountain was lofty and towering, reaching a height of 10,000 zhang. It was the only mountain in this core area. It appeared tall and heavy, but also appeared very lonely. This independent space, opened up by the ancient immortals, contained a very dense amount of immortal spiritual energy. However, after countless years of flowing through the spatial crack to the hidden immortal sea region, the immortal spiritual energy in the vicinity of the mountain was still very dense. Xiaoling Yu knew that there were many immortal stones in this mountain, but he also knew that there was an ancient devil suppressed under this mountain. If I can obtain the immortal stones here, when my cultivation breaks through to the primal chaos convergence stage, I won't have to worry about transforming primal chaos force. I just don't know if the devil under this mountain has already perished in body and soul." Xiao Lingyu hesitated at the foot of the mountain for a long time, but was unable to make a decision. Jiang Lanyue once said that when she came here, the devil suppressed under this mountain was already on the verge of death. It wouldn't take long for it to perish. Now, only less than 1,000 years had passed since Jiang Lanyue came here. 1,000 years was a very long time for Xiao Lingyu, but for other cultivators, devils, and existences like Jiang Lanyue, it definitely wasn't too long. Xiao Lingyu had no way of determining whether the devil was truly perished or not. Jiang Lanyue originally told Xiao Lingyu not to approach this place, so she naturally didn't say much about the situation here. Xiao Lingyu could only blast open a path from the foot of the mountain to the base of the mountain and personally go in to find out the details. Even that ancient immortal couldn't destroy it and could only suppress it. As long as it still had a breath left, it could easily take Xiao Lingyu's life. Even if it was so dangerous, Xiao Lingyu didn't want to give up this opportunity so easily. This was because his cultivation during the primal chaos convergence stage required too much immortal stones. Without enough immortal stones, he would have to stay in the primal chaos convergence stage for a very long time. Xiao Lingyu's master had told him that the biggest taboo when cultivating the 9 revolutions chaos formula was to stay in a certain realm for too long. This was because it would cause one's cultivation to regress and the quality of the primal chaos force to gradually decline due to the lack of replenishment. Jiang Lanyue had told him many places where treasures were hidden in the cultivation world. There was no lack of places with large amounts of immortal stones. However, all of those places were extremely dangerous to Xiao Lingyu. Xiao Lingyu would have to take risks if he wanted to obtain large amounts of immortal stones in the future. Since he had to take risks, Xiao Lingyu felt that it was more reliable to take a gamble here. After all, there was only a possibility of danger here, but it wasn't certain. However, other places were definitely very dangerous. Let's do it. In the end, Xiao Lingyu decided to gamble on his luck and held the silver moon broken blade in his hand. The mountain's body was very hard. Ordinary magic treasures and spells couldn't damage it at all. Even an immortal weapon like the phoenix feather would take a very long time to create a passage. If Xiao Lingyu didn't have the silver moon broken blade and the silver needle, which were divine weapons, he wouldn't have wasted his time here. Under the cutting of the silver moon broken blade, the very hard mountain rocks were as fragile as tofu. Xiao Lingyu used nearly 10 hours to create a passage that was thousands of feet long and successfully arrived at the place where the ancient demon was suppressed. This was a cave of unknown size. It was hazy inside, and the aura was very mixed. Not only was there rich, immortal spiritual energy, there was also surging devil spiritual energy. The two completely opposite energies intertwined here, making Xiao Lingyu unable to see the specific situation inside. The immortal spiritual energy and the devil spiritual energy were both very aggressive and corrosive. However, Xiao Lingyu's chaotic force was already not weak, so he wouldn't be hurt by these unconscious energies. Holding the phoenix feather in one hand and the silver moon broken blade in the other, Xiao Lingyu carefully groped around in the rolling fog. After 20 breaths of time, Xiao Lingyu finally found the place where the ancient demon was suppressed. It was an existence that looked like a budding lotus flower, but the lotus flower was as black as ink. Around the lotus flower, there were 6 small sandalwood beads. The 6 beads slowly moved around the lotus flower. From time to time, they would double in size. After a huge tremor, they would shoot a bright white light with a divine aura at the black lotus flower bud. At the top of the cave, there were some very complicated runes. Those runes slowly flowed, but all of them gathered in a hexagonal star pattern in the center. Every 100 breaths, the hexagonal starlight pattern would shoot out 6 beams of immortal light, infusing the 6 beads with vigorous immortal spiritual energy. That ancient demon should be suppressed in that black lotus flower bud, and the seal seems to be intact. The immortal stones in this mountain are used to maintain this ceiling formation. If I take away those immortal stones, this formation will lose its energy support and will definitely collapse. If that ferocious devil is not completely dead, he will be able to break out of the seal. At that time, I will be in trouble. When Shaolin Yu arrived here, she found that she still couldn't be sure whether the demon was dead or not. She couldn't help but feel a little depressed. If I can break this seal formation first, I can know if the ferocious devil still has a chance to live. I will still be in danger of facing the ferocious devil. However, this is better than me directly taking the immortal stone. After all, if the ferocious devil still has a chance to live, I can discover it immediately and avoid being ambushed. If that demon is still alive and very weak, I can use the phoenix feather to sneak attack him. Maybe it will directly take his life. Thinking up to here, Shaolin Yu first unfolded the wings of extreme speed, then soared up and fiercely slashed at the hexagonal star pattern with the silver moon broken blade. Boom! The whole mountain suddenly trembled violently, and then the top of the cave emitted crisp, crackling sounds. Shaolin Yu quickly landed, and then her eyes were fixed on the black lotus flower bud, looking extremely nervous. The black lotus flower bud was also trembling violently, and the 6 small beads were constantly shrinking, as if they were facing a great enemy. Chapter 83. Shaolin Yu snorted coldly. With a light flap of his wings of extreme speed, his figure flashed several hundred meters away, dodging the attack of the demonic saber. At this moment, the 2 black blood demon cultivators slightly frowned. They inwardly marveled at how fast this brat was. Moreover, this brat's strength was definitely not as simple as what Lao Bei said. The demonic saber missed its target, but under its master's control, it continued to shuttle back and forth like lightning, chasing after Shaolin Yu. Shaolin Yu knew that while he was moving at top speed, the 2 of them would not be able to lock onto him and attack him. However, once he stopped, he would be locked onto again because the 2 of them had a much higher cultivation base than him. This time, Shaolin Yu did not dodge. He waved his phoenix feather and swept it towards the demonic saber. There was no scorching wave of fire. This time, the attack of the phoenix feather was launched by the immortal artifact, but it directly swept the demonic saber, which was a supreme-grade spiritual artifact, far away. When the 2 loose demons saw the immortal artifact, their eyes were filled with unconcealable shock. However, soon after, a trace of greed appeared in their eyes. You should be the loose demons of the black blood demon, right? I only killed one of your body integration disciples. Is it really worth it for you to keep making things difficult for me? Shaolin Yu was in a hurry to leave this place. He did not want to waste time on these 2. Moreover, he did not want to attract the attention of the experts of the Wanling continent or attract the attention of those ferocious demons because the fight here was too fierce. You didn't just kill a body integration disciple. You also killed a 3rd tribulation loose demon. You even snatched our black blood demon's tracking mirror. If you can return the tracking mirror and give us the immortal artifact as an apology, we can go back and plead with the sect master to spare your life. One of the loose demons said. I still have a use for the tracking mirror. Just take it as a temporary loan. When I no longer need it, I will definitely return it with both hands, Shaolin Yu said in a seemingly sincere manner. Then don't blame us for being impolite. At this point, the 2 black blood demon experts did not intend to waste any more words. Their auras also rapidly gathered on their bodies. You guys are courting death, so don't blame me. Shaolin Yu sneered, and her wings of extreme speed flapped again. The 2 black blood demon experts didn't dare to be careless. They used their power to form a defensive barrier, and a supreme-grade spirit armor appeared on their bodies. However, Shaolin Yu continued to move at an extremely fast speed, making it impossible for them to attack with their prepared attacks. Primal Chaos Seal. After a few flashes, Shaolin Yu suddenly came to a stop. Then, with a loud roar, a circle of colorful yin-yang fish seals shot towards one of the loose devils with a loud rumble. Only a moment later than the primal chaos seal is a scorching wave of fire, which is sent out by the immortal weapon Phoenix Feather, attacking another loose devil. The two loose devils were not weak. They were able to receive Xiao Lingyu's two attacks head-on, and at the same time, they launched a counterattack. Two supreme-grade spirit demonic treasures, wrapped in torrential demonic flames, rushed towards Xiao Lingyu with a mighty momentum. What the two loose devils didn't expect was that Xiao Lingyu would also choose to receive their attacks head-on, instead of concentrating on defense. The reason why he took the opponent's attack head-on was to ensure that his own attack was connected. Xiao Lingyu pushed his hands forward abruptly, and two streaks of black light flew out from his palms at an extremely fast speed, rolling towards the two opponents. This series of actions actually took less than 2 breaths of time. None of them were cultivation rookies, so their attack speed was certainly not slow. Although the two loose devils received the attacks of the primal chaos seal and the Phoenix Feather head-on, their defensive cover collapsed in an instant. Even their supreme-grade spirit armors were charred black by the explosion. Their faces immediately turned ashen, but they only suffered minor injuries, losing some of their fighting strength. However, what surprised them even more was that although their supreme-grade spirit demonic treasures also hit the opponent's body, the opponent was only sent flying several tens of meters away, spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood. Receiving the attacks of supreme-grade spirit weapons head-on with one's body and being able to do so without any serious injury was very rare. That guy's body is actually so strong that it's close to the quality of supreme-grade spirit weapons. While the two loose devils were still in shock, the two streaks of black streaks with poisonous flames had already surrounded them. Then they contracted in an instant, tying them up like divine whips. The two loose devils recovered from their shock one after another, but they had already reached the point where they couldn't dodge, so they could only receive it head-on again. Even if we have to receive it head-on, we can't let that guy off easily. At the same time, the two loose devils connected their minds with the supreme-grade spirit weapons that had just hit each other and attacked again. Now, it was time to see who could withstand it. Xiao Lingyu also didn't care about the attacks of the two supreme-grade spirit weapons. Although this level of attack could injure her, it was absolutely not fatal, but her own attack was fatal. After being hit by the two supreme-grade spirit weapons again, Xiao Lingyu's face was also deathly pale, but the two bull-sized scars on her body had already healed in an instant. At this moment, the two loose devils who were surrounded by the black waterfall couldn't help but let out blood-curdling screams. That was because the extremely corrosive fire poison had already corroded their already damaged battle armor, like snow in boiling water. The fire poison had invaded their bodies, turning them pitch black. Their power had been directly sealed, and even their yuanying had become dispirited. At this time, the two loose devils finally realized that their opponents were who knew how many times stronger than they had imagined. They originally thought that as long as they found Xiao Lingyu, they would definitely be able to obliterate her, and the two of them would at most suffer some insignificant injuries. But the fact was that this wasn't the case. Under the corrosion of the fire poison, the two loose devils didn't last more than 10 breaths of time before dying. Their bodies and yuanying had been completely occupied by the highly toxic poison, and even the consciousness in their souls had been completely erased. Alas, I've committed the sin of killing again, and the hatred between me and the black blood demon has also increased a bit. It's really like the saying, the tree wants to be still, but the wind won't stop. Xiao Lingyu sighed. Then, she collected the highly toxic yuanying of the two loose devils and sealed each of them in a jade bottle. They're already dead. The soul jade slips they left in the Black Blood Demon's headquarters are bound to be broken. The Black Blood Demon will probably still send people, and there'll definitely be even stronger loose devils. In the end, how do they find me? Xiao Lingyu rode, chasing Star, towards the transmission formation while examining the storage magic treasures of the two loose devils. At the same time, she was pondering. These two loose devils couldn't be considered very rich. Their storage magic treasures didn't have a large amount of spirit stones and also didn't have any rare treasures. Only a few top-grade spirit tool, grade demonic treasures could be considered a bit valuable. What kind of treasure is this bead? Shaolin Yu quickly found the spirit-searching bead, but after carefully looking at it for a long time, he still couldn't figure out the use of the spirit-searching bead. Moreover, his consciousness was simply unable to penetrate into the spirit-searching bead. Shaolin Yu tried to drip a drop of essence blood on the spirit-searching bead, but unfortunately, it was rejected by the spirit-searching bead. It can't recognize an owner, so it should also have an owner. It shouldn't belong to those two already dead loose devils. Shaolin Yu shook his head and said. He put away the spirit-searching bead, but also took out the 6 small sandalwood beads, and similarly dripped a drop of essence blood. This time his essence blood wasn't rejected, and all 6 drops of essence blood sank into the 6 small beads. After the master recognition was completed, Shaolin Yu was unable to restrain his joy. With such a powerful magic treasure falling into his hands, it was bound to multiply his strength. Next, Shaolin Yu began to carefully sense it. Because the master recognition relationship already existed, he and the 6 small beads could produce a telepathic connection, allowing Shaolin Yu to carefully understand them. After a long while, Shaolin Yu slowly opened his eyes, and the joy on his face became even more intense. These 6 beads were called demon-suppressing immortal beads, and were top-grade immortal tools refined from the cores of 6 Holy Radiance immortal fruits. The Holy Radiance immortal fruit was a material used to refine top-grade immortal pills. From the time it bloomed to the time it bore fruit was no less than 1,000,000 years, and after the fruit was formed, it still needed nearly 5,000,000 years to mature. From this, one could see how precious the Holy Radiance immortal fruit was. The flesh of the Holy Radiance immortal fruit was precious, and its core was also unusual. After so long of nurturing and tempering, the core was not only as hard as a top-grade immortal tool, but also contained incomparably vigorous divine energy. It was a good treasure for exorcising evil spirits and avoiding calamities. That ancient immortal originally had a Holy Radiance immortal tree, so he had so many Holy Radiance immortal fruit cores to refine the demon-suppressing immortal beads. To need 6 demon-suppressing immortal beads to suppress the seal, it was enough to see how powerful that ancient devil was. The demon-suppressing immortal beads were the nemesis of devil Tao cultivators. As long as the master of the demon-suppressing immortal beads was powerful enough, he could definitely make any devil Tao cultivator below the god realm flee at the mere sight of it. Shaolin Yu's current strength was far from that ancient immortal's, but after he refined the demon-suppressing immortal beads, as long as he could unleash a 10,000th of the demon-suppressing immortal beads' power, he wouldn't need to fear any devil Tao expert in the cultivation world. With such an immortal treasure in hand, I'll have a much easier time facing the Black Blood Demon's pursuit in the future, Shaolin Yu said with satisfaction. With a thought, the 6 demon-suppressing immortal beads were stored in Shaolin Yu's dantian. He let them revolve around the primal chaos nascent soul, accepting the refinement of the primal chaos true fire. The teleportation array of the wandering immortal continent wasn't very lively at the moment. With such a huge commotion over at the hidden immortal sea region, almost all the experts of the continent had gone to the hidden immortal sea region. Even some cultivators who were originally preparing to leave chose to wait a little longer to see if they could hear any news about the birth of an immortal treasure. As for the cultivators from other continents who heard the news, they naturally wouldn't stay near the teleportation array. After they left the teleportation array, they directly sped towards the hidden immortal sea region. Shaolin Yu only waited for about the time it took to brew a cup of tea before entering the teleportation array. Then, he began to teleport towards the Li Hung continent. Even the interstellar teleportation array couldn't transport across too many star fields. The distance between the wandering immortal continent and the Li Hung continent wasn't very close. When they came, they needed to teleport more than 20 times. Naturally, going back was the same. Chapter 84. After 5 days and 39 continents, Xiao Lingyu once again arrived at the Lihing continent. Along the way, Xiao Lingyu still didn't find any traces of his friends or family. However, he wasn't too disappointed because he was already used to it. After he walked out of the teleportation array, he entered the city not far away. Xiao Lingyu walked towards the center of the city with great familiarity. Finally, he stopped in front of a shop called Kunlun's Rare Treasures. On Earth, the Kunlun Mountains were a hot spot in Huaxia. It was also a place filled with many fantastical legends. That was why Xiao Lingyu had chosen to walk in front of the Kunlun's Rare Treasures shop. Of course, he knew that this could just be a coincidence. However, the shop did look magnificent and glamorous. Xiao Lingyu had thought that he might be able to gain something from it. He hadn't expected to find the 3 Lives flower here. Xiao Lingyu didn't linger at the entrance for too long. After he walked in, he went straight to the counter and asked the seemingly old shopkeeper behind the counter, "Shopkeeper, is the 3 Live flowers still here?" The old shopkeeper always had a sleepy look on his face. Most of the business in the shop didn't require him to intervene. Those seemingly young and beautiful female receptionists would be able to negotiate the business deals one by one. Only a very small number of big business deals required him to personally check on them. When Xiao Lingyu had come to ask about the 3 Lives flower, it had been this old shopkeeper who had greeted him. Unfortunately, the old shopkeeper had shown the incomparably precious 3 Lives flower to Xiao Lingyu. He had thought that the deal would be a success, but Xiao Lingyu had shaken his head and left because he didn't have 8 million top-grade spirit stones on him. This had infuriated the old shopkeeper. The old shopkeeper glanced at Xiao Lingyu and snorted coldly. "You dare come again? Do you want me to find someone to kick you out?" "Hee, don't misunderstand, shopkeeper. I left in a hurry last time and didn't bring so many spirit stones with me. That's why I didn't buy anything," Xiao Lingyu explained with a smile. "Then did you prepare enough spirit stones this time?" the old shopkeeper asked lazily. "Yes," Xiao Lingyu replied with certainty. "Oh." The old shopkeeper stood up slightly and said, "Then let this old man take a look at your spirit stones." Xiao Lingyu did not hesitate and immediately placed a storage bracelet that she had prepared beforehand on the counter. Traveling all the way from the Wandering Continent to the Lihing Continent, Xiao Lingyu processed a small part of the medicinal materials he obtained along the way and also sold a few superb spiritual weapons that he didn't need at all. The number of spirit stones he obtained was so huge that it was absolutely unimaginable for a Dashang stage cultivator. The old shopkeeper didn't reach out to touch the storage bracelet. He just immersed his spiritual sense into it. After a while, his expression changed slightly. "You have enough spirit stones, but even if you have enough spirit stones, the 3 Lives flower is not fated with you." The old shopkeeper sat down again and said indifferently, "Why is that?" Xiao Lingyu frowned slightly. "Because the 3 Lives flower has already been sent to the main store in the Kunshu continent. It said that a cultivator wants to buy it for 10 million superb spirit stones, so I said that the 3 Lives flower is not fated with you." The old shopkeeper shook his head and said, "In fact, he also wanted this business to be done in this store, but he didn't dare to disobey the orders of the main store. The Kunshu continent seems to be very far away from here." Xiao Lingyu narrowed her eyes and rummaged through her memories. "It's not that far. If you keep using transportation formations, it'll take about 2 months to get there." The old shopkeeper shook his head. "It'll take 2 months to get there, even if you keep using transportation formations, and it's not that far, plus the time to wait in line for transportation." "Hee, we don't need to wait in line," the old shopkeeper interrupted with a smile. "So, even if I go to the Kunshu continent now, I won't make it in time, right?" Xiao Lingyu asked with obvious disappointment on her face. The 3 Lives flower was very precious, and she was very lucky to have found it this time. Xiao Lingyu didn't dare to guarantee that he would be so lucky in the future. Moreover, he wasn't far from breaking through to the chaotic convergence stage, so he didn't have that much time to look for it. If he couldn't find it, then he could only use a substitute. If he used a substitute, not only would it reduce the success rate of breaking through to the chaotic convergence stage, But even if he succeeded, it would also greatly affect his future cultivation. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Xiaoling Yu would never use a substitute. The people from the main store have only left 3 days ago. If you're fast enough, you might be able to make it in time, the old shopkeeper said indifferently. Xiaoling Yu walked out of the Kunlun Rare Treasures store gloomily. He couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If he hadn't taken a detour, he could have reached here 3 days ago, and the 3 Lives flower wouldn't have been taken away. However, it was too late for regrets. He could only try to hurry and reach the Kunshu continent before the 3 Lives flower did. The people from the main store of Kunlun Rare Treasures could be transported continuously because the various major forces of the cultivation world had a tacit understanding. This tacit understanding could also be said to be a rule jointly set by them. The true experts didn't need to wait in line for transportation, and some influential cultivation world merchants could also use their trading path teleportation tokens to avoid waiting for transportation. No cultivator was willing to say much on this matter. After all, no one wanted to offend all the top forces of the cultivation world at the same time. This rule that specifically served the strong was naturally very welcomed by the strong. No matter where it was, the influence of the weak was very pitiful. The fastest way to travel in the cultivation world starry space was to take a teleportation formation, unless one was an expert from the immortal world or the god world, or had a flying magic weapon of immortal or divine weapon quality. Even a 9 tribulation expert's teleportation speed could not cross a starry field and instantly teleport from one cultivation continent to another. To Xiaoling Yu, the fastest way to travel was also to use a transportation array. However, he wasn't a disciple of any major force, nor was he a merchant of any major merchant. He didn't have the qualifications to use a transportation array without waiting in line. However, Xiaoling Yu could use the identity of a strong cultivator because his strength was definitely comparable to a 5th tribulation expert. 5th tribulation experts were already considered strong in the cultivation world. Most cultivation continents didn't have any 5th tribulation experts, and most cultivation continents had at least a few experts below that level. Apart from the transit planets, basically all interstellar transportation arrays on cultivation continents were guarded by guards. After all, cultivators had to pay a fee to use the transportation array. Naturally, someone had to be at the side of the array to collect the fee. If a strong cultivator wanted to cut in line, they had to get the permission of the guards. After Xiaoling Yu left the city, he quickly walked towards the interstellar transportation array on the Lihing continent. At this moment, there was a very long line in front of the transportation array. There were no less than 3,000 people waiting in line. If Xiaoling Yu had waited obediently, it would have taken him at least 4 hours. Xiaoling Yu didn't wait in line. He walked along the long line and slowly walked towards the transportation array. Everywhere he passed, people couldn't help but stare at him. Everyone was thinking that he must be a disciple of some large sect who had come out to train. What ordinary cultivators hated the most were the young disciples of these large sections. This was because these people's cultivation levels were not high, but they relied on the strength of their sects to become arrogant and arrogant. They could also obtain a lot of privileges, so no matter where they went, no one was willing to offend them. Xiaoling Yu ignored everyone's expressions and gazes. When he walked to the side of the teleportation array, a group of cultivators had just finished teleporting. He said to the 2 guards at the entrance of the teleportation array, "I want to teleport away now." There were 2 rows of guards on both sides of the transportation array. There were also many guards in the plaza around the transportation array. If there was even the slightest movement at the transportation array, they would swarm over. "Please show your token," one of the guards replied calmly. "I don't have one." Xiaoling Yu's expression didn't change in the slightest. He looked very calm. Xiaoling Yu's answer surprised many cultivators. It turned out that this brat wasn't a disciple of some large sect who had come out to train. Could it be that he was a 5th tribulation expert, or even higher? That guard slightly frowned. The dozens of guards on both sides of the transportation array were staring at this side. If that brat was deliberately teasing them or trying to cut in line by force, they wouldn't be standing still like statues. Then please pour a trace of your power into here. The guard next to the transportation array took out a black iron-like stone that looked like a brick and said to Xiao Lingyu with a grave expression. In his opinion, Xiao Lingyu was most likely not a fifth tribulation expert. This black brick was set up next to the interstellar transportation arrays of all the cultivation continents. It was very hard and repelled all kinds of energy. It was said that only high-grade energy like immortal spiritual energy or devil spiritual energy could invade it. In other words, only the power of loose immortals and loose devils at the Great Ascension stage or higher could invade it. However, how much it could invade depended on the strength of the cultivator's cultivation. Therefore, this black brick was set up next to the transportation array. It was specially used to test the cultivation level of experts. As long as a cultivator poured all their power into the black brick, their cultivation level would be clear at a glance. Xiao Lingyu's strength wasn't bad, but his power level wasn't very high. However, he firmly believed that his power of primal chaos could also invade the black brick, so he dared to give it a try. However, he didn't dare to be too sure, so he immediately poured all his power of primal chaos into the black brick. At this moment, all the cultivators and guards waiting for the transportation array were staring at the black brick. What made Xiao Lingyu depressed was that he clearly felt his power of primal chaos invading the black brick, but it didn't move at all. Cultivators who often use transportation arrays knew that the black brick had been refined by an expert. As long as there was energy invading it, it would overflow with radiance according to the amount of energy invading it. Moreover, it would show the corresponding level. So, it's a brat who's looking for a beating. Now he's in trouble. Looking at the group of guards who had already begun to move and surround Xiao Lingyu, all the cultivators waiting for the transportation array shook their heads with smiles, waiting to see a good show. Pretending to be an expert in front of the transportation array, you can either pay 1,000 times the transportation fee or have your cultivation destroyed. Which one do you choose? Chapter 85. Xiao Lingyu was also aware of these two punishments, which was why he was so relaxed. 1,000 times teleportation fee was nothing compared to his wealth. However, Xiao Lingyu wouldn't give up so easily. If he couldn't get the right to jump the queue, he wouldn't have any hope of getting the 3 lives flower. Primal Chaos Nascent Soul. Use all your strength to transfer the power of chaos. Xiao Lingyu communicated with the Primal Chaos Nascent Soul. Just as the Primal Chaos Nascent Soul was about to continue, something unexpected happened. The black brick in the guard's hand suddenly emitted a multicolored radiance, and the number displayed on its surface began to climb. When these black bricks were refined, they were used to test the cultivator's strength. However, the highest number they could display was 9. 9 represented the 9 tribulations cultivators, which represented the top level in the cultivation world. There were 9 tribulation experts in the cultivation world, but they were pitifully few in number. They rarely walked around in the cultivation world. The guards of ordinary teleportation formations would be very surprised if they were lucky enough to see a 7 tribulation expert. Most of the guards had never seen a 7 tribulation expert before. Today, however, the guards and cultivators waiting by the Liheng Continent's transportation array were dumbfounded. After the black brick released its radiance, the number soared to 9. Moreover, it continued to soar in the blink of an eye. It seemed that if the black brick had a higher number, the rising momentum wouldn't have stopped at 9. Phew, a 9 tribulation expert. There was no movement at first, then it continued to soar. Is there something wrong with the strength testing stone? The expressions of the cultivators and guards were very interesting. Some of them were very shocked, while others were very doubtful. A second tribulation, loose immortal, happened to be among the guards. He took the black brick and injected his energy into it to test it. Unsurprisingly, the black brick only emitted a faint light, and the number displayed on it was 2. Please forgive us, Senior, don't waste my time. Xiao Lingyu himself was also surprised just now, but he didn't mind everyone treating him as a 9th tribulation expert. He also didn't listen to those guard apologies. Under everyone's awe-inspiring gazes, he walked into the teleportation formation and then activated it with ease and familiarity. The appearance of a nine-tribulation expert on the Lihung continent's teleportation formation had caused quite a stir. Less than 10 minutes after Xiao Lingyu left, the news had spread to more than half of the experts on the Lihung continent. Moreover, it spread to the cultivation continents around the Lihung continent at a frightening speed. Those cultivators and guards who saw Xiao Lingyu with their own eyes at the transmitting formation square were the most proud of themselves. Not everyone could have the chance to see a ninth tribulation master with their own eyes. This was bound to become one of the things they could boast about in front of their relatives and friends in the future. Many major sects and powers had spies in the various continents of the cultivation world, including the Lihung continent. Very reasonably, the news reached the major powers of the cultivation world. They had all obtained Xiao Lingyu's image and compared it with other nine tribulation experts or 8 tribulation experts who might become 9 tribulation experts. However, they didn't get any results. The storm didn't end there. In the following days, news of 9 tribulation experts appearing on many continents of the cultivation world spread one after another. All the news pointed to the same person, Xiao Lingyu. As a result, Xiao Lingyu's image became known to more and more cultivators. In the Kunlun Rare Treasure store on the Lihung continent, the old shopkeeper didn't like to listen to those boring rumors, but he quickly learned of such big news. When he saw Xiao Lingyu's image, he was so shocked that he couldn't recover for a long time. That kid, oh no, that's Senior. He's actually a 9 tribulation expert. This is bad. The old shopkeeper became nervous. If the Kunlun Rare Treasure store offended a 9 tribulation expert, because of him, he definitely wouldn't have a good ending. No wonder he didn't have any spirit stones on him before. He didn't need to at all. No wonder he could get so many spirit stones in such a short time. This won't do. I have to inform the main store. After the old shopkeeper's thoughts flashed through his mind, he went upstairs and took out a supreme-grade messaging spiritual pearl from side room. In a secret room deep in a mountain base of the Black Blood Demon sect, one of the 3 giants of the cultivation world, the sect master of the Black Blood Demon sect slowly opened his eyes. He asked a black-robed cultivator who was standing in front of him with his back bowed, "What? A new 9 tribulation expert has appeared?" "Sect master, this matter is absolutely true," the black-robed cultivator said very respectfully. "Have you found out the origin of that expert?" The sect master of the Black Blood Demon sect asked with a calm expression. For someone like him who had been in a high position for a long time, he could be said to be an existence that ran amok in the cultivation world. Naturally, he wouldn't have any big emotional fluctuations just because a 9 tribulation expert had appeared in the cultivation world. "Sect master, this person and our Black Blood Demon sect don't have a good relationship," the black-robed cultivator said hesitantly. "Oh, what's going on?" The sect master of the Black Blood Demon sect frowned. Even a rich and powerful family like the Black Blood Demon wouldn't be willing to easily provoke a 9 tribulation expert. The person who stole the tracing mirror from Lao Bei some time ago was this top expert. Presumably, Lu Shan and the other person also died at his hands. The black-robed cultivator braced himself and replied. No wonder Lu Shan and the other person couldn't even send back a message before their bodies and souls were destroyed. I didn't expect him to be a 9 tribulation expert. It seems that he has been hiding very deeply. The sect master of the Black Blood Demon sect's expression gradually became serious. He knew very well how powerful a 9 tribulation expert was, and he also knew that the Black Blood Demon sect couldn't provoke a 9 tribulation expert now. If a 9 tribulation expert really killed his way into the Black Blood Demon sect, even if the Black Blood Demon sect could rely on its countless years of inheritance and accumulation to survive, it would still suffer heavy casualties and its vitality would be greatly damaged. A 9 tribulation expert had already passed the 9 tribulations, and it wouldn't be long before they could ascend to the immortal world. They didn't have too many scruples in the cultivation world. Sect Master, we should quickly send a message to the Elder Ninth and the young lady and ask them to stop the pursuit. Now that the Great Elder is still traveling outside and hasn't returned, it's really not good for us to offend a nine-tribulation expert, the black-robe cultivator reminded the sect master, who was currently pondering. Right? I almost forgot about this. The sect master, the black blood demon sect, rarely panicked, but today it happened. He took out the best quality messaging spiritual pearl, and his palm trembled slightly. It wasn't because he was too afraid of a nine-tribulation expert, but because his daughter and the elder ninth, who had just passed the sixth tribulation, went out to carry out the mission of hunting down Shaolin Yu and taking back the tracking spiritual mirror and spiritual pearl. On a certain cultivation continent, Anya, Ji-hee, and the others also received the news about a nine-tribulation expert. But when they saw the legendary nine-tribulation expert, they couldn't believe it was true. No way. He's actually a nine-tribulation expert? But I also spied on his strength at that time, and he shouldn't be so strong. The seven-tribulation expert G, he said in great surprise. This matter had already spread like wildfire, and this news came from a very reliable person, which made it really hard for Ji-hee to accept that the person he saved in the Dark Continent was actually a nine-tribulation expert. Sixth brother, if he's really a nine-tribulation expert, and he wanted to hide his strength, how could you see through it? 18, madam, said with a smile. Indeed. G nodded at first, and then said with great relief, so, we didn't offend him, and even have some friendship with him. At this point, he looked at Anya. He's not an individual immortal, individual devil, or individual demon at all. So how could he be a nine-tribulation expert? Anya said with a frown. Oh, why are you so sure, miss? He asked curiously. Anya didn't answer this question, but replied, there must be some misunderstanding. That guy's power is very strange and very high, so the strength testing stone may not be able to measure it accurately. Putting everything else aside, all of you should be clear that after my sword origin energy penetrates the strength measuring stone, the strength number obtained will be much higher than my own cultivation base. Miss, what you said makes sense. Indeed, many rumors in the cultivation world are just rumors. He answered respectfully, but in his heart, and in Anya's heart, they both felt that it would be great if Shaolin Yu was really a nine-tribulation expert. Perhaps he hadn't completely ruled out the possibility that Shaolin Yu was a nine-tribulation expert, but Anya was very clear that she and Shaolin Yu had practiced dual cultivation before, and they were very close to each other. She basically knew all the secrets in Shaolin Yu's body, so she was sure that Shaolin Yu wasn't an individual immortal, and his strength was still very far from a nine-tribulation expert. Shaolin Yu teleported all the way to the Kunshu continent, but every time he arrived at a continent, he would first do a search and then continue to teleport. Although he had caused quite a stir in the cultivation world, he was far from being well known. Many cultivators with low cultivation didn't really care when there was a nine-tribulation expert in the cultivation world, so Shaolin Yu could only cause a stir when he left the continent. When he arrived at a continent, everything was still very peaceful. Although Shaolin Yu was in a hurry, his main purpose in traveling the cultivation world was to find his parents and girlfriend, Gu Xiaomin. Improving his strength was secondary, so he wouldn't give up on searching the continents he passed by just because he was in a hurry. What Shaolin Yu didn't expect was that before he arrived at the Kunshu continent, he would unexpectedly discover the whereabouts of his girlfriend, Gu Xiaomin, on Earth. This unexpected surprise caused the excitement and beautiful memories that Shaolin Yu had been hiding in the bottom of his heart all these years to come pouring out from the depths of his soul. In the mid-air of a cultivation world called Sangyang Continent, Shaolin Yu followed the guidance of the needle on the tracking mirror and spent nearly 10 hours before he finally determined Gu Xiaomin's current location. When he arrived at a mountain gate, Shaolin Yu was stopped by two receptionists. Senior, may I ask what brings you here? One of the receptionists first bowed and then asked politely. Looking for someone, Shaolin Yu answered indifferently. Chapter 86. Shaolin Yu patiently said, the person I'm looking for is called Gu Xiaomin. Please inform her that I don't have an invitation. Senior, please wait here for a moment. A boy bowed again and jogged all the way to the depths of the mountain gate. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the boy returned. However, he brought with him a man who looked quite young. The man was only at the early stage of the spirit-severing stage, and he seemed to have just broken through. However, he had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and his face was like a warm jade. However, he was wearing a brocade robe, and his long hair was tied up with a golden ribbon. Although he looked like a handsome young master, his expression was unruly and arrogant. At first glance, one could tell that he was not a seasoned character who had rich experience and weathered hardships. Fellow Taoist, may I ask where you're from and why you're looking for Xiaoman? The young severed soul stage cultivator waved his fist in front of his chest before asking politely. I'm an old friend of Xiaoman's. I haven't seen her in a long time, so I came to visit, Xiao Lingyu replied with a smile. Oh, an old friend? Why haven't I heard Xiaoman mention you before? The young cultivator appeared to be very suspicious. Xiao Lingyu nodded before asking, You are indeed an old friend. How is Xiaoman? Why hasn't she come out yet? If it weren't for Gu Xiaoman, you wouldn't have dilly-dallied here, nor would he be wearing such a friendly smile. Since this place had taken Gu Xiaoman in, they could be considered Xiao Lingyu's benefactor. As such, Xiao Lingyu naturally had to maintain proper etiquette. Xiaoman is currently in seclusion and is unable to meet with guests. Please come visit at a later time, the young cultivator calmly said. Although he couldn't see through Xiao Lingyu's strength, judging from Xiao Lingyu's appearance and hearing that he was Gu Xiaoman's old friend, he felt that even if Xiao Lingyu's cultivation was higher than his, it couldn't be much higher. Moreover, this was his own sex mountain gate, so it was considered his own territory. There was no need for him to act like a grandson and address someone as a junior. Closed door cultivation? Xiao Lingyu frowned and asked, How long will it take for her to come out? This time, Xiaoman and I have just become Dao companions. We just completed our first dual cultivation not long ago. Her original cultivation was relatively weak, so she needs some time to digest it in seclusion. At most half a year, at least a month, the young cultivator calmly explained. Dual cultivation? When Xiao Lingyu heard the young cultivator's words, she felt as if a thunderbolt had struck her brain, and she couldn't help but take 2 steps back. From Xiao Lingyu's reaction, the young cultivator could tell that something was amiss. He thought to himself, could this person be Xiao Min's old flame? No wonder Xiaoman didn't mention it before. This brat really doesn't have any luck with women. She's such a stunning beauty, and she even has a cultivation talent that's hard to come by in 10,000 years. He's actually willing to let her go. The young cultivator had just dual cultivated with Gu Xiaoman, causing his cultivation to directly jump from the middle stage of the out-of-body stage to the early stage of the spirit-severing stage. This kind of leap made him happy for a long time. Xiao Lingyu carefully sized up the young cultivator in front of him. He felt that there was indeed an aura of yin and yang that had yet to dissipate from the other party's body. He was sure that the other party had just made great progress from dual cultivation. However, he still couldn't believe that the young cultivator's dual cultivation partner would be his girlfriend from Earth, Gu Xiaoman. Is there only one female cultivator called Gu Xiaoman in your sect? Did she come here more than 10 years ago? Xiao Lingyu asked after coming back to his senses. That's right. The young cultivator nodded in response. His expression was obviously proud. He enjoyed Xiao Lingyu's expression very much. Some men could not help but feel a sense of pride after snatching another man's woman, especially when the woman he snatched was still a virgin. No, I want to see her now. With that, Xiao Lingyu walked towards the mountain gate. Xiaoman is in seclusion. Please wait for a few days. Get lost. Xiao Lingyu couldn't believe this fact no matter what. In the past 10 years in the cultivation world, it could be said that he had been thinking about Gu Xiaoman day and night. After painstakingly searching for her for so long, in the end, he found such an unacceptable result. One could imagine how Xiao Lingyu felt at this time. The young cultivator was naturally asking for trouble by blocking Xiao Lingyu at this time. Xiao Lingyu just gently waved his arm, and a powerful aura gushed out from his body. In an instant, the young cultivator was pushed far away, and the shock made him spit out blood. So strong. Watching Xiao Lingyu stride towards the mountain gate of his sect, the young cultivator wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He first praised, then sneered and said, "Even if you are in the Mahayana stage, you are courting death by barging into our Leaf Fire immortal sect." After speaking, the young cultivator sounded the alarm. Xiao Lingyu had just walked for 10 breaths of time when he was surrounded by the experts of the Leaf Fire immortal sect who had heard the news. There were many experts in the crossing calamity stage and the unification stage. "Get out of the way. I only want to see an old friend. I don't want to be enemies with you." Xiao Lingyu still had some sense at this time, so he didn't directly attack, but warned. "What kind of place do you think our Leaf Fire immortal sect is? How can you barge in as you please? Please leave quickly, or don't blame us for being ruthless." A crossing calamity stage expert narrowed his eyes and replied very firmly, "Tell Gu Xiaoman to come out and see me. After seeing her, I will leave immediately." Xiao Lingyu shouted loudly. His voice was mixed with a bit of skill, and his words shook everything in the nearby space. "Presumptuous." The same vigorous voice came from inside the Leaf Fire immortal sect, but it was accompanied by a wave of fire attack that was like a winding dragon. The speed of the fire wave was extremely fast, and Xiao Lingyu only had time to release the primal chaos light shield to block it. Unfortunately, the fire wave was released by a strong cultivator at the Deshang stage, and it contained a very overbearing fire immortal power. Moreover, it had the effect of a seal, and it actually shattered Xiao Lingyu's primal chaos light shield. The impact of the wave of fire made Xiao Lingyu's body retreat a few steps. His clothes were burned to black smoke. However, the quality of his physical body was extremely high. The wave of fire that was reduced by the chaotic light shield did not bring too much damage to his body. However, this wave of fire angered Xiao Lingyu. With a thought, he changed into a new set of clothes, and then looked at a middle-aged Mahayana stage expert in the air. "Father, this person ignored my advice and insisted on seeing Xiaoman when she was in seclusion. I told him to wait for a few days, but he wanted to barge in and even attacked me." The young severed soul stage cultivator also flew into the air and said to the Mahayana stage cultivator, "Seeing that you and my daughter-in-law are old friends, today I will not pursue your crime of trespassing into our Leaf Fire immortal sect. It is better for you to leave quickly. When Xiaoman comes out of seclusion, it will not be too late for you to meet her." The Mahayana stage expert said to Xiao Lingyu in a condescending manner, "I don't need to care about who I want to see. If you don't let me go, you will have to bear the consequences." Xiao Lingyu replied indifferently while calling out the wings of extreme speed. "Really arrogant and ignorant." The Mahayana stage expert was angered. His body flashed, and he teleported to the front of Xiao Lingyu. When he appeared again, his palm was not far from Xiao Lingyu's heart. Xiao Lingyu was just attacked by the wave of fire, because he was distracted for a moment and did not fully defend himself. At this moment, the Mahayana stage expert wanted to harm him again, but it was very difficult. He did not dodge and also quickly shot out a palm. Bang! The two palms clapped together fiercely. Then, the brilliance of the flames and the colorful light of the chaos intertwined. Two powerful auras swept out. Immediately, all the powerhouses of the crossing calamity stage and the form synthesis stage were unable to stabilize their bodies and stepped back. However, what the cultivators of the Leaf Fire Mortal Sect did not expect was that after the palm strike, the Deshang stage expert only lasted for a breath of time before his body flew back like a broken kite, and blood continued to spurt out from his mouth along the way. Looking at the young man who broke into the mountain gate, the other party did not move half a step, and his breath was very stable, as if he still had a lot of strength left. Xiao Lingyu was not proud of injuring the Mahayana stage expert with one move. If he wanted, he could even easily kill the Mahayana stage expert with one move. He just activated the tracking spirit mirror again, and then flapped the wings of extreme speed, instantly escaping the encirclement. Those Leaf Fire Immortal Sect cultivators wanted to chase, but they could not keep up with their speed at all. They could only watch as the other party rushed into the vast depths of the Leaf Fire Immortal Sect after 2 flashes. "Go and ask the elders." The Mahayana stage cultivator shouted, and then chased in the direction Xiaoling Yu disappeared. The depths of the Leaf Fire Immortal Sect were also full of restrictions. Unfortunately, Xiaoling Yu carried the Phoenix Feather and swept all the way to the end. Those restrictions could not bring him any trouble at all. In less than 100 breaths of time, Xiaoling Yu had already arrived at the target location. At this time, the needle on the tracking spirit mirror was spinning nonstop. In front of Xiaoling Yu was a small lake, and in the center of the lake was a small island. On the island were a few buildings, and Gu Xiaomin was in one of the buildings on the island. Xiaoling Yu was about to fly to the island, but he was stopped by 3 cultivators wearing fiery red robes. "Sir, you came uninvited and even forced your way into our Leaf Fire Immortal Sect. Do you think there is no one in our Leaf Fire Immortal Sect?" A cultivator with a red beard questioned Xiaoling Yu. "I want to see an old friend. Unfortunately, your disciple did not pass the message and said to let me wait. I don't have that much time to waste here. I know you are all loose immortals, and your cultivation is not low. But I want to tell you that I don't even need to wait in line to use the teleportation array. You, a mere sect that can barely be considered a first-class sect, dare to make me wait?" Xiaoling Yu said very impolitely. "You don't need to wait in line to use the teleportation array." The 3 red-robed cultivators' hearts jumped. They knew very well that only the 5 tribulations or experts with higher cultivation could have this privilege, or that this person was a disciple of a big sect in the cultivation world. No matter which one it was, the Leaf Fire Immortal Sect could not afford to offend him. "I want to see how you can take the teleportation array without waiting in line." At some point in time, another red-robed cultivator flew over. This time, he shot a blue wave of fire at Xiaoling Yu. "Nanming Primordial Fire? I wonder how it compares to my Primordial Fire?" Chapter 87. The 2 waves of fire met in an instant, but they seemed to be evenly matched. What kind of primordial fire is that? It can actually block the first elder's Nanming Primordial Fire? The great vehicle stage practitioner who had fought with Xiaoling Yu before said in surprise. The other cultivators of the Life Fire Celestial Sect were also shocked. The person who came looked so young, but he actually had such a powerful strength. It was really out of their expectations. Only now did they understand why he dared to barge into the Life Fire Celestial Sect. Although Xiaoling Yu's chaotic primordial fire was not inferior to the Nanming Primordial Fire, his cultivation was not as strong as his opponent's. Therefore, his primordial fire could not hold on for too long. After trying, Xiaoling Yu's mind moved. Waves of black, poisonous fire, accompanied by his chaotic primordial fire, gushed out from his palm. In an instant, the chaotic primordial fire gained an overwhelming advantage. It not only defeated the opponent's Nanming primordial fire, but also surrounded the red-robed First Elder who had just arrived. "Fellow Taoist, please show mercy." Feeling the power of the poisonous fire in the chaotic primordial fire, the First Elder of the Life Fire Celestial Sect was shocked. The First Elder's cry stunned all the practitioners of the Life Fire Celestial Sect. The First Elder, who had the cultivation of a 4-tribulation individual immortal, was begging for mercy before he could even exchange 2 blows with the opponent. Xiaoling Yu came here only to see Gu Xiaomin, not to kill. Even if Gu Xiaomin had become someone else's Taoist companion, he could not use this as an excuse to kill. Hearing the First Elder's plea, he put away the chaotic primordial fire and the poisonous fire, and then asked, "Do I have the right to take the transmitting formation without queuing?" Of course. The First Elder, whose breath was still a little unstable, nodded. Not only was his momentum much weaker, but even his voice was much lower. "I have no intention to be your enemy. I just want to see Gu Xiaomin. After that, I will leave immediately." As Xiaoling Yu spoke, he turned into a silver light and rushed to the island in the middle of the lake. Although there were nearly 100 masters of the Li-Fire celestial sect around, no one dared to stop him. Gu Xiaoman was currently meditating in a secret room protected by a restriction in a 2-story pavilion on the island in the center of the lake. Due to the existence of the restriction, she was not disturbed by the commotion outside. However, she had been feeling uneasy the entire time. She kept having the feeling that something was about to happen. When she woke up occasionally, she would always comfort herself by saying, "Humans strive for greater heights, just as water flows to lower places." Since God didn't let me die at the end of the world and gave me a chance to be reborn, I should forget everything in the past and seize the opportunity now to cultivate and become an immortal, to live forever. Of a secret is, she has already become someone else's woman, but I'm still thinking about her. She is in seclusion this time to digest the benefits of dual cultivation. She is not trying hard to find a breakthrough. Knocking on the door will not harm her. After thinking about it, Xiaoling Yu gently shook the restriction formation on the door of the secret room. Not long after, the restriction formation opened from the inside. A woman in a long green dress with her hair tied up gently opened the door. The woman had delicate eyebrows, jade-like skin, and a tall figure. At this time, her face was slightly red and she looked very attractive. However, when the woman saw Xiaoling Yu, it was as if she was struck by lightning. Her body stiffened and her expression was petrified, like an earthling who had seen a ghost. "Long time no see. How are you?" Xiaoling Yu first forced a smile and then greeted softly. You are, I am Xiaoling Yu. Don't tell me that you have forgotten your old friend after getting married." Xiaoling Yu knew that Gu Xiaoman's emotions must be very complicated at this time, but she still spoke in a very friendly tone, as if she was joking with an old friend. "You didn't die?" Gu Xiaoman's eyes were slightly red and glistening with tears. Xiaoling Yu originally wanted to say, "How could I die when you're not dead?" But after thinking about it, he decided against it. He just tried to be as friendly as possible and said, "I probably encountered the same opportunity as you and was teleported to the cultivation world by a kind expert. After so many years, you have changed a lot. I almost didn't dare to recognize you just now." Gu Xiaoman also forced herself to calm down after the shock. "Haha, aren't you the same? You were very beautiful before, and after cultivating, you have the aura of a fairy." Xiaoling Yu said with a seemingly sincere smile. "This should be the so-called flowers are alike every year, but people are different every year." Gu Xiaoman lowered her head and said, but her 2 hands were tangling with the hem of her dress, just like a child who had done something wrong standing in front of her parents. "I heard that you got married. Congratulations, you have found a home," Xiaoling Yu said. At this moment, he had already let go of a lot. Gu Xiaoman had become someone else's woman, but didn't he also just lose his chastity and have that kind of relationship with another woman? Now, he was very clear that in a place like the cultivation world, you could not do whatever you wanted. There were many accidents waiting for everyone. How could everything go according to one's wishes? He and Gu Xiaoman had been separated for more than 10 years. She naturally had the right to find a new lover. "I hope you will blame me." Gu Xiaoman still lowered her head and said, as if she did not dare to face Xiaoling Yu, this old lover of hers. After all, they had made a solemn vow of love. After all, her feelings for Xiaoling Yu back then were not just for show. They were sincere and true. "Hee, of course I won't blame you. In fact, I also found a new girlfriend. She's as beautiful as you, but she has a very bad temper. She often yells about beating and killing." Xiaoling Yu said with a very relaxed look. Hearing this, Gu Xiaoman first frowned, and then she felt as if a rock had fallen from her shoulder. In the next 2 hours, Xiaoling Yu and Gu Xiaoman stood at the door of the secret room and talked about their encounters in the cultivation world. Then, they each left a soul imprint in the other's communication spiritual bead. Xiaoling Yu said goodbye and left. She did not let Gu Xiaoman send her off. Xiaoling Yu flew out of the small lake. The experts of the Li-Fire immortal sect did not disperse, but they did not dare to take half a step closer to the island. They all waited by the shore. Seeing that Xiao Yu's expression was not very ugly, the experts of the Leaf Fire Immortal sect heaved a sigh of relief. Senior, please forgive this junior's rashness. This junior has already ordered people to arrange a banquet. I hope that Senior can do me the honor and stay for a moment to have a drink or two. The Great Ascension Stage expert said as he winked at his son. Senior, this junior had eyes but failed to see. He offended Senior. Even if I die 10,000 times, I can't atone for it. I have no interest in drinking, and I will soon leave this Sanyang continent, so you don't have to curry favor with me. I have no resentment towards you. I only hope that you can treat Xiaomin well in the future. I will still come and see her when I have time. If she is wronged in the slightest, humph. After Xiao Yu finished speaking, she flapped her wings of extreme speed and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. All the experts of the Leaf Fire Immortal sect flew to the mountain gate and waited for a long time. When they saw that Xiao Yu did not return, they were really relieved. Just as everyone was preparing to go back, news came from the transmission array. It said that a 9 Tribulation expert had just appeared, and there was also the image of that 9 Tribulation expert. Everyone looked at the image and was collectively petrified. You can marry Xiaomin as a Tao companion. It is a blessing cultivated by thousands of generations. In the future, you must treat Xiaomin well. You must not let her suffer the slightest grievance. Do you remember? The Great Ascension Stage expert solemnly instructed his son. This child will definitely remember. The young spirit severing stage cultivator nodded. At this time, the pride in his heart had been shattered. Compared with a 9 Tribulation expert, he was simply an ant. He also felt that he had great luck to be able to marry a 9th Tribulation expert's friend. After Xiao Yu left the Sanyang continent, his expression suddenly changed. The relaxed and calm expression he had when he left the Leaf Fire Immortal sect disappeared and was replaced by deep disappointment and loneliness. If I had come a year or two earlier, the result would not have been like this. Xiao Yu secretly regretted. He was wholeheartedly devoted to Gu Xiaomin. Even in his most dangerous and most difficult time, he did not forget his feelings for Gu Xiaomin. But the result was like a sharp sword piercing his heart. Xiao Yu naturally would not cry. He had long forgotten the taste of tears. This matter could not be said who had let who down. If he wanted to blame someone, he could only blame the heavens for playing tricks on him. It gave him a chance to live, but took away his first love and former love. Gu Xiaomin told him that the young spirit severing stage cultivator was very good to her. It did not force her. That was why she fell in love with him over time. Gu Xiaomin also told him that she did not know if she could see Xiao Yu again. She did not know if Xiao Yu was still alive, but she had to face reality. She had to have a place in the cultivation world. She had to have a guarantee to continue living. Xiao Yu knew that he had no reason to blame Gu Xiaomin. After all, even if everyone got along with each other every day, there was still the possibility of breaking up, not to mention that they had not seen each other for more than 10 years. Xiao Yu said that he had also found a new girlfriend. This was the truth, but it was also to make Gu Xiaomin not feel guilty and also to make his own heart feel better. What's done is done. What's done has happened. Let the past be the past. Xiao Yu calmed down and shook his head. Then he sincerely prayed. I only hope that she can be happy in the future and go further. Although the result of finding Gu Xiaomin was not satisfactory, Xiao Yu could finally put down the matter that had been weighing on his heart for a long time. Next, besides cultivating, he continued to look for his parents. Gu Xiaomin's situation gave Xiao Yu a lot of hope. He felt that he should be able to find his parents. Chapter 88. 2 months passed very quickly. Other than stopping for a while on the Sanyang continent, Xiao Yu had only delayed the activation of the tracking spirit mirror once on the other continents. Along the way, Xiao Yu did not find any traces of his parents, so he did not waste much time. However, he was already 3 days late to begin with. In addition to the delay in activating the tracking spirit mirror along the way, Xiao Yu felt that the chances of him reaching the main store of Kunlun rare treasures before the sale of the 3 Lives flower were actually very slim. No matter what, Since he had chased all the way to the Kunlun continent, he naturally had to try his luck at the Kunlun Rare Treasure Store. Not far from the Kunshu continent's teleportation array, there was also a large cultivation city. Its name was the same as this continent. Kunshu City occupied a large area of land, and the city walls were also very sturdy and tall. The Kunshu continent was considered a famous and prosperous continent in the cultivation world, and Kunshu City was also one of the most famous cities in the cultivation world. What made Xiao Lingyu very surprised was that as soon as he walked out of the teleportation array, he was blocked by two cultivators. Although these two cultivators had concealed their auras very tightly, Xiao Lingyu could still see that their cultivation levels were very high. They were probably the kind of people who did not need to wait in line to use the teleportation array. However, these two people looked like old men with genial expressions. After blocking Xiao Lingyu, they both cupped their fists and bowed. Xiao Lingyu was not too nervous. "May I know if this fellow Taoist is going to the Kunlun Rare Treasure Store?" One of the old men asked politely after Xiao Lingyu returned the greeting. "Yes." Xiao Lingyu nodded in response. "The two of us are the shopkeepers of the Kunlun Rare Treasure Store. We heard that you were coming, so we are here to welcome you. Please follow us into the city." The old man said. "Oh." Xiao Lingyu was a little suspicious at first, but seeing that these two old men were easygoing and sincere, he was not in the mood to be bashful. He immediately said, "Then I'll have to trouble the two of you." Even with the two experienced shopkeepers leading the way, it still took them nearly an hour to reach the entrance of the Kunlun Rare Treasure Store. Kunshu City was really too big, and one couldn't walk or fly in the city. Therefore, even experts like Xiao Lingyu and the two old shopkeepers needed some time to reach the Kunlun Rare Treasure Store, which was located in the center of the city. There was a rather large plaza in front of the Kunlun Rare Treasure Store. This caused the 7 stories tall and magnificent store to appear extremely eye-catching. From this, one could tell that the Kunlun Rare Treasure Store was a large merchant with a deep background and great financial resources. Furthermore, how could this Kunlun Rare Treasure shop be ordinary if it could have 2 Fifth Tribulation experts or even higher as shopkeepers and had such a large territory and such a tall building in Kunshu City? At the entrance of the Kunlun Rare Treasure Store, there was also a middle-aged Tribulation Transcendence cultivator waiting. The middle-aged cultivator was wearing an elegant long robe. Although he was alone, he stood proudly at the entrance of the Kunlun Rare Treasure Store and looked at Xiao Lingyu with a smile. Xiao Lingyu's intuition told him that this person was not simple, and the attitude of the two old shopkeepers towards the middle-aged cultivator made Xiao Lingyu even more certain of his guess. "Master, this is the fellow Taoist who wants to buy the 3 Lives flower." An old man cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Hee, I'll have to trouble the 2 elders." "You're welcome, you're welcome." After the middle-aged cultivator was polite to the 2 old shopkeepers, he said to Xiao Lingyu, "Junior Bohu greets Senior." Although the middle-aged cultivator's status was extraordinary, his cultivation was not high. With his Tribulation Transcendence cultivation, it was reasonable for him to call himself a junior in front of Xiao Lingyu. After all, they thought that Xiao Lingyu was a 9th Tribulation expert. When 9th Tribulation experts walked in the cultivation world, only 5th Tribulation experts and above would not call themselves a junior, but a fellow Taoist instead. "Master, you don't have to be so polite. Let's call each other fellow Taoist," Xiao Lingyu said politely. He knew very well that he was not a 9th Tribulation expert and was only in his 30s. How could he let a Tribulation Transcendence cultivator, who had cultivated for at least a few hundred years, call him senior? The shopkeeper did not refuse and said, "Fellow Taoist, please come in and have some tea." Compared to the Kunlun Rare Treasure Store, the various stores on the cultivation continent that Xiao Lingyu had visited before were too low class. The hall on the first floor was no less than 10,000 feet long, but there were only a few shelves. However, all of the items on the shelves were treasures. The lowest quality was probably high quality. The hall on the first floor was quite large, so it naturally wasn't occupied by those few shelves. There were also side rooms, tea rooms, and a series of female body integration stage receptionists shuttled back and forth to provide patient and meticulous service to the customers. Xiao Yu did not show a surprised expression as if he had not seen the world. He walked very calmly. Under Bohu's lead, he passed through the hall and arrived at the staircase. However, he did not see the staircase. Instead, he saw a miniature teleportation array. This Kunlun rare treasure store is indeed extremely extravagant. They actually use a teleportation array to go upstairs. Xiao Yu praised in his heart. After the teleportation array ended, Xiao Yu did not know which floor he was on. He just calmly followed Bohu into a side room. The area of the side room was quite large. The decorations inside were also very luxurious. The domed ceiling was illuminated by valuable water spirit pearls, which cast waves of cool air. The floor was covered with thick and soft demon beast fur. The chair was even covered with the fur of an immortal beast, bright light tiger. Putting everything else aside, if the items in this room were sold, the spirit stones they would get would be enough to sustain the cultivation of a void inquiry stage immortal sect for thousands of years. Fellow Taoist, please have a seat. Try our Kunlun Rare Treasures store's special tea, Paradise on Earth. While talking to Xiao Yu, Boho took out an exquisite white jade teapot and 4 white jade teacups. When Xiao Yu sat down, he opened the lid of the teapot. Immediately, a wave of refreshing fragrance flowed out, filling the entire room with its fragrance. What caused Xiao Yu to feel even more strange was that the misty, fragrant mist that drifted out actually slowly converged together after a few moments, and it even revealed various illusions. There were red-crowned cranes that fluttered in the sky, misty mountains that towered into the clouds, and surging rivers. No wonder it's called Paradise on Earth. It's indeed very interesting. Xiao Yu could not help but praise. Fellow Taoist, please have a taste of it. Boho placed a cup of tea in front of Xiao Yu. The tea looked very bland. It was light green in color. There was nothing special about it. However, the fragrance that lingered at the tip of Xiao Yu's nose made her feel intoxicated and comfortable all over. Without tasting it, she already knew that it was good stuff. Xiao Yu was still worried that the energy contained in the tea was too huge. She was worried that she would make a fool of herself if she could not digest it. Therefore, she just took a sip. The tea indeed contained a very rich energy. Moreover, this energy was immortal spiritual power. To those rogue immortals or great Ascension Realm experts, this tea was definitely something that they could only dream of. However, to the current Xiao Yu, it was not something good. Fortunately, Xiao Yu was already prepared. After taking a sip, the immortal spiritual power was absorbed by her primal chaos nascent soul. Then, it was directly wrapped up by her primal chaos chi. Xiao Yu could sense that there was not only immortal spiritual power in the tea, it also had the effect of hallucinating a mind. Although this hallucinating effect did not have any side effects and was beneficial for improving the soul realm after passing, Xiao Yu could not enjoy it at this time. The tea is good, but I'm not here for the tea. If I'm not wrong, the 3 Lives flower should still be in your shop. You don't have to beat around the bush. Just name your price. Xiao Yu did not want to complicate matters. Therefore, after taking a sip of tea, he put down the teacup and went straight to the point. After Xiao Yu drank a mouthful of tea, Boho and the 2 old shopkeepers stared at him as if they wanted to see his expression of admiration. Unfortunately, he didn't let the 3 of them do as they wished. The quality of the primal chaos chi was definitely much higher than immortal spiritual power. Moreover, as Xiao Yu's cultivation continued to increase, he became more familiar with the control of the primal chaos chi. However, it was still very easy for him to seal off a strand of immortal spiritual power. Xiao Yu did not react at all, but stirred up even greater waves in the hearts of the 3 shopkeepers. This was because they knew that the immortal spiritual power contained in the tea was very powerful. Even a 7 tribulation expert could not seal in their body, but this expert in front of them had done it. If they had doubts about Shaolin Yu's identity as a ninth tribulation expert before, they were now convinced without a doubt. They had seen someone who could drink the tea of this paradise on earth without any abnormalities, but that person was a ninth tribulation expert. This, Boho stammered, looking a little embarrassed. Shaolin Yu's heart skipped a beat. Then he asked, "Could it have been sold to someone else?" "It hasn't been sold, but that 3 Lives flower has already been reserved by a fellow Taoist. He has also discussed the price with us. In a few days, he will come to pick it up. If we transfer the 3 Lives flower to someone else, I'm afraid." "I see." Shaolin Yu continued, "Your Kunlun rare treasure shop is one of the few big merchants in the cultivation world. Do you only have this one 3 Lives flower?" Boho and the two shopkeepers exchanged glances. Then he said to Shaolin Yu, "The 3 Lives flower is close to the immortal grade. Moreover, it is very useful to many experts. It is extremely difficult to collect. Even our Kunlun rare treasure shop only has this one." "Huh. Then why did you invite me here?" Shaolin Yu asked with a fake smile. Boho found it difficult to answer Shaolin Yu's question. Moreover, when he saw Shaolin Yu's expression, he was a little worried. After all, he had just confirmed that the person in front of him was a genuine ninth tribulation expert. "The main reason is that we would like to invite fellow Taoists to stay here for a few days. When the fellow Taoist who reserved the 3 Lives flower comes, we will sit together and discuss whether he is willing to give it up. If he is willing to give it up, we will naturally be happy to sell the 3 Lives flower to to give it to fellow Taoist," one of the shopkeepers explained. As for whether they would give it away or sell it, Shaolin Yu did not care. Boho certainly did not care either. After all, 10 million Supreme Great Spirit Stones were nothing to them. Chapter 89. With fellow Taoist reputation, I'm sure that fellow Taoist will be willing to let you have it, Boho replied. I don't have any reputation, but I can wait a few days, Shaolin Yu said, shaking his head with a smile. For some reason, when Boho and the others heard Shaolin Yu's answer, they suddenly felt much more relaxed. It was as if Shaolin Yu's answer was exactly what they had been hoping for. "I still have some other matters to attend to in the Kunshu continent, so I won't be waiting here. If that fellow Taoist arrives, please send me a message," Shaolin Yu said, taking out his supreme grade messaging spiritual pearl. Boho very cooperatively took out his own messaging spiritual pearl. He and Shaolin Yu left a soul imprint on each other, then sent Shaolin Yu out of the Kunlun rare treasure store. Is he really a ninth tribulation expert? Although he had passed the test, Boho still found it a little hard to believe. After Shaolin Yu left, he asked the two old shopkeepers, "We also feel that it's a little strange, but he's been tested by countless strength measuring stones. Just now, he drank the paradise on earth without any abnormalities. He should be a ninth tribulation expert," one of the old shopkeepers said. "But what use would a ninth tribulation expert have for the 3 Lives flower? A ninth tribulation expert will soon ascend to the immortal realm," the other old shopkeeper said. "If he can't use it himself, he can give it to his juniors. Perhaps he feels that he's about to ascend to the immortal realm, so he's paving the way for his juniors," Boho said. "Regardless of whether he's a ninth tribulation expert or not, at the very least, his strength won't be lower than ours. He's the most suitable person to deal with that person," one of the old shopkeepers said. "If he discovers that we deliberately set this up, then it'll be troublesome," the other shopkeeper said worriedly. "We're helping him with this out of the kindness of our hearts. He won't discover any other problems. That person definitely won't hand over the 3 Lives flower. If we instigate them, there will definitely be a conflict between them. As for who gets the 3 Lives flower, we won't get involved," Boho said, shaking his head. "That person relies on his status as an elder of the Tai, immortal sect, to not put us in his eyes. He often shouts at us and is becoming more and more excessive. If we don't teach him a lesson, I'm afraid the Kunlun Rare Treasure Shop will change its name to Tai Rare Treasure Shop," an old shopkeeper said with indignation. "If it's just a bad attitude, then it's fine. Our Kunlun Rare Treasure Shop used to have countless experts and could be considered a big family in the cultivation world. It's all because of this person's tricks in the dark that our experts are getting fewer and fewer, and our business is getting worse and worse. The foundation left behind by our ancestors is about to be destroyed in my hands. I absolutely can't compromise with him anymore, Boho said with a firm expression. Senior Sima still hasn't sent back a message. An old shopkeeper asked. Grandpa Sima went out this time to look for something too rare. I think he went to find a new cultivation continent in the universe. I don't know if he received my message or not. Sai, whatever. Even if Grandpa Sima is here, he should still support our plan. Boho shook his head. I hope Senior Sima can find what he wants. As long as he can pass the 9 Tribulation and become a 9 Tribulation expert, our Kunlun Rare Treasure Shop won't have to worry anymore, an old shopkeeper said. The 9th Tribulation is extremely difficult. Even if he can pass it, he will quickly ascend to the immortal world. An old shopkeeper sighed. After Xiao Lingyu left the Kunlun Rare Treasure Shop, he also left Kunshu City. He randomly found a secluded place and activated the tracking spirit mirror. To Xiao Lingyu's surprise, he still didn't find any trace of his parents. However, he found his 3 university roommates. According to the direction of the tracking spirit mirror's needle, Xiao Lingyu could vaguely determine that his 3 roommates should be in the same place. He flew in that direction at full speed. Half a day later, Xiao Lingyu arrived in front of a valley. This valley was enveloped by a formation. Xiao Lingyu's 3 roommates were in this valley. Xiao Lingyu pressed the alarm at the valley's entrance. Not long after, a young cultivator who looked to be in his 20s walked out. However, this person wasn't one of Xiao Lingyu's 3 roommates. The young cultivator was only at the nascent soul stage. He first sized up Xiao Lingyu and felt that Xiao Lingyu's strength was unfathomable. He respectfully cupped his fists and said, Senior, what brings you here? I'm here to see 3 old friends. They're in this valley. I hope you can make an exception for them, Xiao Lingyu said with a polite smile. Other than me, there are only 3 outer sect disciples who haven't reached the foundation establishment stage. Could it be that your old friends are those 3? The young cultivator asked in surprise. Yes, it's the 3 of them. Please bring them out, Xiao Lingyu said as patiently and kindly as he could. Please wait a moment, Senior. The young cultivator returned to the valley. In less than 20 breaths, he brought Xiao Lingyu's 3 roommates out. When the 3 of them left Earth, they were all very young. However, after more than 10 years in the cultivation world, they were all middle-aged. Moreover, when they were in university on Earth, they were unruly and carefree. Now, they were very obedient and looked lethargic. It seemed that they had suffered a lot in the cultivation world. They were only at the 2nd or 3rd level of the Qi refinement stage. This level of cultivation couldn't keep them young forever. Xiao Lingyu, why are you here? The 3 roommates were all very confused when they heard that an old friend had come to visit. However, when they saw the visitor's appearance, they couldn't help but exclaim in unison. Impudent! How can you call Senior's name like that? The young cultivator hurriedly reprimanded them. Then, he said to Xiao Lingyu, Senior, please don't blame them. They haven't been cultivating for long and rarely go out. They don't know the rules. However, they're all honest people. Senior, please, it's fine. They're my good friends. It's natural for them to call me by my name. Xiao Lingyu waved his hand and said to the young cultivator, Can I borrow your herb garden to reminisce about old times? It will be my honor. Please come in, Senior. As the young cultivator spoke, he took out his token and opened a restriction and array at the entrance of the valley. Xiao Lingyu stayed in the valley for 2 days. First, he caught up with his 3 roommates and talked about his experiences in the world of cultivators. Then, he helped them to wash their veins and finish building their foundation. He left some spiritual stones behind in secret before he left because of Boho's invitation. In these 2 days, Xiao Lingyu knew that his 3 roommates were relatively lucky. They were moved to a sect in the Kunshu continent that wasn't very strong. In the end, they were taken in. Although they didn't get any powerful cultivation methods, they had a place to settle down. When they were assigned to this medicinal garden, the young cultivator who was in charge of the medicinal garden treated them well. He didn't treat them like dirt. Although their lives for more than 10 years were dull, it could be considered stable. In these 2 days, the sect of Shaolin Yu's 3 roommates also sent experts to check. The first time, it was a spirit-severing stage cultivator. The spirit-severing stage cultivator found that he couldn't see through Shaolin Yu's cultivation, so he respectfully greeted him and left. The second time, it was a tribulation passing stage expert who also couldn't see through Shaolin Yu. So the third time, it was a grand ascension stage expert. The fourth time, it was a 3 tribulation loose immortal. The 3 tribulation loose immortal also couldn't see through Shaolin Yu, but he was the strongest expert in the entire sect, so he didn't leave directly. Instead, he chatted with Shaolin Yu for a long time until Shaolin Yu left. Shaolin Yu believed that the sect would definitely treat his 3 roommates well in the future, and the cultivation resources he left for his 3 roommates were enough for them to cultivate to the spirit-severing stage even if they weren't talented. But what made Shaolin Yu unhappy was that the 3 tribulation loose immortal told him that there were many mortals who were moved from Earth 10 years ago. But these mortals were all under 30 years old. None of them were middle-aged or old. Shaolin Yu couldn't help but have a bad feeling. Was it that the cultivator who kindly saved the people on Earth was unable to move all the people who hadn't died at that time to the cultivation world, and only chose the young people who were more energetic and more likely to have a chance to cultivate? If that was the case, his parents, who were nearly 50 years old at that time, definitely wouldn't have been chosen. This naturally made Shaolin Yu feel depressed to the extreme. Reason told Shaolin Yu that this was very likely, but Shaolin Yu couldn't accept it emotionally. No matter what, he wouldn't give up looking for his parents unless he got sufficient evidence to prove that his parents had died. Shaolin Yu soon returned to the Kunlun Rare Treasure store. Boho was still waiting for him at the door. He took the miniature transmission formation upstairs and arrived at the luxuriously decorated wing room. The 2 old shopkeepers were already in the room, but there were 2 more people in the room. They were a man and a woman. The man was an old man in a purple robe. He was relatively thin, and his eyes were very small, but very spirited. He looked like a fortune teller in the secular world. The woman was young and beautiful. She wore a beautiful, colorful dress and had a sweet smile on her face. Her beautiful eyes were constantly looking around, making her look very clever and cute. When Shaolin Yu came in, the old man and the young girl both stood up to welcome him. They were very polite. After all, in their eyes, Shaolin Yu was a 9th tribulation expert. Second elder, he's the 9th tribulation expert you were talking about. Why does he look so young? The young girl was obviously a person who didn't think before talking. She had just sat down when she started talking without any fear. Dyer, don't talk nonsense. This fellow Taoist has a technique to maintain his youthful appearance. He looks young, but in fact, he's in the same generation as your grandfather. You have to be more respectful. The old man lectured, but his tone was very calm. Oh, Dyer understands. The young girl stuck out her small tongue and made a face. Chapter 90. I heard that fellow Taoist also wants the 3 lives flower and placed the order slightly later than me. However, there's only one 3 lives flower. Fellow Taoist, you're making things difficult for me. The second elder spoke to Shaolin Yu in a rather polite manner. Haha, if second elder is willing to let me have it, I will also give you a generous gift. I won't let second elder suffer a loss. Shaolin Yu replied with a smile. However, I don't want the 3 lives flower for myself, but for Dyer, if I use it, I will definitely give fellow Taoist face. This 3 lives flower is also a necessary item for Dyer's cultivation. We really can't let you have it. Please forgive us, fellow Taoist. Don't think that we are purposely making things difficult for fellow Taoist, the second elder explained in a seemingly sincere manner. Second elder, we ordered the 3 lives flower first. As the saying goes, first come, first served. There is no reason for us to let you have it. It's not like we can't afford the spirit stones. The girl called Dai said unhappily, as if she was impatient with the second elder's beating around the bush. The second elder only frowned and glared at Dyer. Then he smiled at Xiaoling Yu and said, "This girl is young and doesn't know any better. Fellow Taoist, please don't blame her. If you can let me have it, I'm willing to give you 100,000-year-old bloodling ji and 100,000-year-old water spirit flower in return," Xiaoling Yu said indifferently. 100,000-year-old bloodling ji and water spirit flower. Apart from the girl and Xiaoling Yu, the faces of the experts in the room all changed. The bloodling ji and water spirit flower were very precious medicinal ingredients. Even if they were only 10,000 years old, their value was not much lower than the Three Lives flower. As for the 100,000-year-old bloodling ji and water spirit flower, they were very rare in the cultivation world. One would need to find a new cultivation world with incomparably abundant spiritual qi to have a chance of obtaining them. As expected of a ninth tribulation expert, perhaps in the entire cultivation world, only a ninth tribulation expert could be so extravagant. What they didn't know was that the 100,000-year-old medicinal ingredients could be found everywhere in Xiaoling Yu's storage magic treasure. Fellow Taoist, do you really have such a treasure? The second elder seemed to be tempted. Dai originally wanted to interrupt, but after seeing the second elder's shocked expression, her curiosity was piqued. She also wanted to see for herself, so she didn't say anything. However, Boho and the two old shopkeepers frowned slightly. They hoped that Xiaoling Yu and the second elder would fight, not that they would reach an agreement. Xiaoling Yu faintly smiled. He gently swept his hand across the table, and two jade boxes appeared in front of him. Then, Xiaoling Yu personally opened the jade box and said to the second elder, "With the eyesight of the second elder and the three Kunlun sect fellow Taoists, you should be able to distinguish the authenticity." The second elder carefully held the jade box in his hand and carefully observed it for a long time. In the end, he nodded and said, "It is indeed as fellow Taoists said. These two treasures are very extraordinary." Second elder, are you willing to transfer the Three Lives flower? Xiaoling Yu asked. This. The second elder hesitated. What? Could it be that the second elder wants to raise the price and get some benefit from me? Xiaoling Yu asked coldly. Since the other party thought that he was a ninth tribulation expert, he had to put on the airs of a ninth tribulation expert. No, fellow Taoist, please don't misunderstand. Fellow Taoist, any one of these two treasures is enough to exchange for the Three Lives flower. However, the Three Lives flower is very useful for Dai-Er's cultivation. Only Dai-Er can make the decision. The second elder hurriedly explained, then looked at the young girl beside her. Dai-Er frowned slightly, not knowing how to deal with this matter. Dai-Er, the other party is a ninth tribulation expert, a top expert like your grandfather. It's best if we don't offend him. Since he's willing to take out these two treasures to exchange for it, let's give him some face and give me a way out. Since he's so sincere, if we refuse, we'll definitely offend him. If we anger him and he directly attacks us, we won't be able to keep the Three Lives flower. Although your grandfather is also a ninth tribulation expert, he might not fight with a fellow expert over such a small matter. The second elder hurriedly reminded Dai-Er. After thinking for a moment, Dai-Er nodded in agreement. At this time, Xiaoling Yu and the second elder felt relieved. However, the three experts of the Kunlun Rare Treasure Shop could only force a smile, feeling extremely depressed. Boho, why aren't you bringing the Three Lives flower over for this fellow Taoist? The second elder said to Boho. Boho and the two old shopkeepers looked at each other, then left the room together and entered a miniature teleportation array. The experts of the two sides had already reached an agreement. Even if the Kunlun Rare Treasure Shop had any plans, they wouldn't dare to offend both sides at the same time. They could only bring the Three Lives flower over. After Xiaoling Yu saw the Twin Lives flower, he said to the second elder, "These two treasures are yours." The second elder didn't stand on ceremony. With a wave of his sleeve, the two jade boxes on the table disappeared without a trace. There are 10 million top-grade spirit stones inside. It's for the 3 lives flower. Please take a look. Xiaoling Yu handed a storage bracelet to Bo Ho. Fellow Taoist must be joking. Fellow Taoist used 2 treasures to exchange for the 3 lives flower. There's no need to pay us any more spirit stones. Bo Ho returned the storage bracelet and said politely, Fellow Taoist indeed doesn't need to pay us any more spirit stones. I've already paid them the spirit stones needed for the 3 lives flower. The second elder also opened his mouth to agree. When Bo Ho heard this, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. He didn't accept Xiaoling Yu's spirit stones because he wanted to curry favor with this 9 tribulation expert. The second elder had never paid them a single spirit stone. The second elder probably didn't want this 9 tribulation expert to owe the Kunlun rare treasures shop a single favor. Since that's the case, I'll take my leave. Xiaoling Yu didn't insist. After all, he also needed spirit stones very much. He immediately put away the storage bracelet and prepared to leave. Haha, this matter is over. We should also leave. The second elder also stood up and laughed. Immediately, the group exited the room and took the teleportation array down the stairs. Bo Ho and the other 2 were very enthusiastic. They sent Xiaoling Yu, the second elder, and Dai all the way to the transportation array plaza. In fact, they also wanted to see what kind of reactions a 9 tribulation expert could cause to the strength testing stone. The second elder and Dai probably had this plan in mind when they followed Xiaoling Yu all the way. Xiaoling Yu did not think too much about it. Now that he had the 3 lives flower, he was naturally one big step closer to the primal chaos convergence period. The materials he needed were not in his hands yet, and they were not very precious. As long as he went to more cultivation continents, he would definitely be able to gather them. Just as they arrived at the transportation array plaza, the second elder met a familiar face. There were also 2 people on the other side, 1 male and 1 female. The male was an old man, and the female was a young girl. The second elder cupped his fist and said with a smile, Congratulations, old Devil Geo. I didn't expect you to be so lucky. You actually passed the 6th tribulation and became a 6th tribulation expert. The cultivator called Old Devil Geo replied with a strange tone. So it's Taoist Chu from the Tai Immortal Sect. In front of an 8th tribulation expert like Taoist Chu, my insignificant cultivation isn't worth mentioning. The second elder looked at the young girl and teased, Old Devil Geo, you're in a good mood. You actually found such a young, beautiful, and talented Taoist companion. Old Man Chu, I advise you to watch your words. This is the daughter of my Devil Sect's sect master. If you anger the sect master, even if you're an 8th tribulation expert, I'm afraid you won't be able to bear the consequences. Old Devil Geo saw his young Mrs. Cold expression and overflowing killing intent, so he quickly scolded the second elder. Although his cultivation wasn't as high as the second elder's, he was a devil cultivator and a black blood demon devil cultivator. Naturally, he wouldn't be as cautious as ordinary cultivators. So, it's the daughter of the black blood demon sect master. This old man has been impolite. Please don't take offense. The second elder apologized with a wry smile. His attitude was very casual. He really didn't care about old Devil Geo's threat at all. Princess Mononoke wore a bright red dress. Her figure was graceful, her long hair draped over her shoulders, and her eyes were long and narrow like knives. She also had a thin and clean oval face. Overall, she looked quite heroic. However, she was currently trembling with anger. She sneered and replied, The reason Second Elder made an error in judgment is probably because he likes to find young and beautiful women as Taoist companions. However, Second Elder's eyesight isn't that good. Although this girl is young, she's like a child who hasn't developed yet. For Second Elder to make a move on someone like this, it really makes us devil cultivators feel ashamed. Woman, what nonsense are you talking about? Which part of me looks like a child who hasn't developed yet? Don't look down on people with your dog eyes. You've developed well, but weren't you touched by men from your devil sect? Die. Or wasn't someone to be trifled with? Hearing the other party ridicule her, she couldn't help but flip out. "You're the one who's been touched by a man," Princess Mononoke loudly retorted. These two beauties were quarreling in a public place like the Transfer Array Plaza. Naturally, they attracted the attention of countless cultivators. "Why are you so loud? Does having a loud voice prove that you're strong? Does having developed well mean that you're strong? Why are you glaring at me? If you keep glaring at me, I'll dig your eyeballs out." Dyer stuck out her undeveloped chest and shouted eloquently. "Whether I'm strong or not, you'll know once you try. How about it? Do you dare?" Princess Mononoke was also very excited. "Let's try then. Who's afraid of who?" As Dyer spoke, a colorful ribbon flew out from her sleeve. Like a colorful python, it pounced towards Princess Mononoke. Princess Mononoke naturally wasn't going to back down. With a shout, a blood-red whirlwind appeared in front of her and sucked the ribbon into it, preventing it from getting close to her. Private fights were not allowed on the Transfer Array Plaza. With such a large commotion, it was impossible for the guards not to sense it. They all gathered around. However, the ninth old devil and the second elder of the Tai Immortal sect appeared at the same time. They did not stop the battle between the two heavenly beauties, but instead released their respective auras and sealed off the surroundings, causing the guards to only be able to watch and not be able to approach. Chapter 91. There were also experts from Kunshu City who rushed over after hearing the news. Unfortunately, the majority of these experts' cultivations were inferior to the two old men in the Kunlun Rare Treasure Store. Even if there were a limited number of 5th and 6th Tribulation experts, in front of experts like the ninth old devil and the second elder of the Tai Immortal sect, they didn't dare to take half a step forward. This was especially true for the second elder of the Tai Immortal sect. As an 8th Tribulation expert, even in the entire cultivation world, there were pitifully few existences that could make him afraid. The tyrannical aura of an 8th Tribulation expert released from his body caused the surrounding experts' hearts to palpitate. Anyone would be able to guess that the two beauties' identities weren't simple, since they were fighting in an area sealed off by such a powerhouse. And Princess Mononoke could be said to be proud daughters of the heavens. Their cultivation time was similar, and their cultivations were similar. Their abilities and magic treasures were also different. Therefore, it was impossible to determine the winner of their battle. After all, although they were angry, they didn't lose their rationality and wouldn't really fight with their lives on the line. While the two of them were fighting fiercely, Xiao Lingyu was abnormally depressed. He was about to leave and had already obtained the 3 lives flower. He really didn't want to continue wasting time with these experts. However, just as he was about to enter the teleportation formation, he caused such a mess. If he was a 9th Tribulation expert, it would be fine. It wouldn't be a big deal for him to watch the two of them fight. However, he wasn't a 9th Tribulation expert, and his strength was similar to a 5th Tribulation loose immortal. Under the aura of the 9th old devil and the second elder of the Tai Immortal sect, he couldn't leave even if he wanted to. Xiao Lingyu was most afraid of unexpected complications, especially when the two experts who had just teleported over were black blood demon experts. If they saw through his cultivation, it would be too difficult for him to leave. These two old fellows' auras have enveloped me as well. They probably suspect my true cultivation level and are deliberately testing me, Xiao Lingyu thought gloomily. The two old men indeed had such thoughts. If Xiao Lingyu was really a 9 Tribulations expert, their aura seal would have no effect on Xiao Lingyu. Presumably, a 9 Tribulations expert would not care about their aura either. If Xiao Lingyu was not a 9 Tribulations expert, then they had even less reason to care about Xiao Lingyu's reaction. Elder 9 of the Black Blood Demon sect had already recognized Xiao Lingyu, but because of the sect master's message and the fact that Xiao Lingyu came with the second elder of the Tai Immortal sect, he pretended not to recognize her. Under such pressure, Xiao Lingyu was gradually showing signs of weakness. At most, in the time it took to brew a cup of tea, he would definitely not be able to keep his hands behind his back with a calm expression. At that time, his strength would be completely exposed. Why is it that every girl with a strong family background has the potential to be a tigress? There's no end to this fight. Xiaoling Yu cursed in his heart. At the same time, he quickly thought of a way to escape. It was absolutely impossible to continue like this. Xiaoling Yu could not continue to bear the pressure of the two old fellows' auras. Then, he could only start from the two beauties who were fighting. However, the two beauties were the two old fellows' key targets of protection. Xiaoling Yu could not get close to them at all. Before the anxious Xiaoling Yu could think of a way, he had already automatically activated his cultivation to strengthen his defense because the pressure on his body was too great. With the activation of his cultivation, his aura leaked out. Xiaoling Yu gave the two old fellows a chance to spy on his strength. The two old fellows' consciousness instantly swept across Xiaoling Yu's body. Then, their eyes, which had been staring at the two beauties in the arena, turned to look at Xiaoling Yu with a look of surprise on their faces. It was obvious that they had judged Xiaoling Yu's approximate cultivation level through Xiaoling Yu's aura. Xiaoling Yu's cultivation level was very strange to ordinary cultivators, but the aura of his cultivation level could reflect his cultivation level. Although it was said that many cultivators' true strength was more tyrannical than their cultivation level, it was definitely not too heaven-defying. The two old fellows saw that Xiaoling Yu's forehead was already sweating and his body was trembling. Their expressions gradually became unfriendly. Suddenly, the two old fellows simultaneously increased the pressure of their auras, and all of them converged on Xiaoling Yu. Xiaoling Yu knew that his cultivation level had been exposed. He immediately took out the phoenix feather and swept it around his body. The great increase in his cultivation level caused the phoenix feather's power to be far more powerful than before. The scorching wave of fire formed a fiery red circle of light. In the blink of an eye, it swept through the surroundings and pushed away the two old fellows' auras. With a thought, the wings of extreme speed appeared on Xiaoling Yu's back. The pair of silver wings flapped lightly. Xiaoling Yu's body turned into a silver stream of light. He did not fly towards the transportation array, nor did he escape into the distance. Instead, he directly moved to the side of the two beauties. The two beauties, who were gradually getting angry, reacted very quickly. The two of them immediately stopped fighting and then attacked Xiaoling Yu at the same time. The strength of these two heavenly beauties was similar to Anya's. However, they also had powerful magic treasures in their hands. Even if it was a hasty attack, Xiaoling Yu did not dare to use his body to block it. He used the absolute advantage of the wings of extreme speed to instantly disappear from the two beauties' eyes. When he reappeared, he was already behind the two beauties, and his hands were clasped on each of their shoulders. Without giving the two beauties any chance to defend themselves, Xiaoling Yu's chaotic power, which contained fire poison, had already sealed the two beauties' cultivation. From Xiaoling Yu using the phoenix feather to push away the two old fellows' auras, to Xiaoling Yu rushing in front of the two beauties, and then to Xiaoling Yu sealing the two beauties' cultivation, the whole process was the last resort that Xiaoling Yu had thought of. However, it only took the blink of an eye. While the two old fellows were still stunned by the power of the phoenix feather, Xiaoling Yu already had hostages in his hands. They could only blame themselves for not thinking that Xiaoling Yu would do this. Previously, they thought that Xiaoling Yu was a nine tribulations expert. The two beauties looked valiant, but in fact there was still a big gap between them and the current Xiaoling Yu. They had immortal weapons, but because their realms were not high enough, they could not lock onto Xiaoling Yu to attack. Moreover, Xiaoling Yu's immortal weapons were not fewer than theirs, but they were also not inferior to theirs. Using the advantage of speed, Xiaoling Yu instantly subdued the two beauties. He said loudly, "Restrain your auras. Otherwise, if my hand trembles, these two beauties will die." The ninth old devil of the Black Blood Demon and the second elder of the Tai Immortal Sect were very angry at this time, but they did not dare to act rashly. They could see that Xiaoling Yu was not lying. They were not confident that they could kill Xiaoling Yu before Xiaoling Yu made a move. Moreover, Even if they could kill Xiaoling Yu in advance, they could not guarantee that the power that Xiaoling Yu had poured into their young lady's body would not kill her on the spot. The quality of Xiaoling Yu's power could make the strength testing stone show a 9 existence. Fellow Taoist, if you have something to say, we can talk it out. Don't hurt our young lady. Fellow Taoist, you are so overbearing. You actually sneak attacked 2 juniors. We just gave you the 3 lives flower, but in the blink of an eye, you repay kindness with enmity. The 2 old fellows did not dare to act rashly. They could only stare at Xiaoling Yu and argue with him. At this time, Bo Ho and the 2 old men of the Kunlun Rare Treasure store were feeling a little complicated. It was a good thing that Xiaoling Yu and the second elder of the Tai Immortal sect had a conflict. Unfortunately, the situation was a little too different from what they had originally expected. First of all, Xiaoling Yu was not a 9 tribulations expert. Secondly, not only did Xiaoling Yu have a conflict with old Chu, he even kidnapped the Black Blood Demon's daughter. Don't think that I can't see through your plan. Just now, you focused your auras and pressure on me for no reason. This was your sneak attack first. Don't cry thief in front of me. I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Restrain your auras. Once I teleport away, I will immediately release these 2 beauties, Xiaoling Yu said coldly. The 2 old fellows looked at each other helplessly. Please. In the end, the 2 old fellows chose to retreat and restrain their auras. For sects like the Black Blood Demon and the Tai Immortal sect, their sect masters had very high statuses. Their sect masters did not seem to have a high cultivation level, but their strength was very powerful. Moreover, the most powerful figure in the sect would definitely be on the side of the sect master. At least you know what's good for you. Xiaoling Yu held the shoulders of the 2 beauties and slowly stepped into the teleportation array. Under the gaze of countless experts, Xiaoling Yu calmly activated the teleportation array. After the teleportation ended, Xiaoling Yu did not immediately let the 2 beauties go. Instead, he teleported a few more times before retracting his power. Beauties, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I was forced to do so. After Xiaoling Yu released the 2 beauties, he seemed to apologize very sincerely. Then, he turned around and entered the teleportation array. Before the 2 beauties could react, Xiaoling Yu grinned at them and sent another message. Despicable. Dire stomped her feet and angrily cursed at the teleportation array. Despicable? I don't think he's despicable at all. In fact, I think he's very interesting, Princess Mononoke said coldly. Compared to Dai, she knew more about Xiaoling Yu. This was because she had come out with the Elder Nine to hunt down Xiaoling Yu. After Xiaoling Yu escaped, he didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. He didn't even dare to take out the tracing spirit mirror again. He was certain that the 2 Black Blood Devil sect experts would definitely be able to track the tracing spirit mirror. After teleporting a few hundred times, more than 10 days had passed. Only then did Xiaoling Yu let out a sigh of relief. During these 10 days of teleportation, Xiaoling Yu had already left the Kunshu continent. During this time, he sometimes did not line up to teleport, but sometimes he would line up to be teleported. This way, he could avoid the spies of the 2 top sections. After that, Xiaoling Yu continued to use the tracking spirit mirror to find the whereabouts of his parents. At the same time, he also looked for the remaining materials to break through to the chaotic convergence stage. Chapter 92. Another half a year had passed. Although Xiaoling Yu was only left with 1 type of material that he had yet to find, and was only 1 step away from the chaotic convergence period, his mood was getting heavier and heavier. This was because he still hadn't been able to find the whereabouts of his parents. It was fine if he couldn't find them. Among the targets that Xiaoling Yu had been searching for, he had only found a few university classmates. However, he hadn't found any of the university's elderly lecturers or old professors. At this point, it could almost be concluded that only teenagers under the age of 30 had been transported to the cultivation world. Earthlings above the age of 30 had already died at the end of the Earth. Of course, even if it were Earthlings below the age of 30, Only a small portion of them had been transported out. However, as long as there wasn't the most definite and accurate information to prove this point, Xiao Lingyu was still full of confidence that his parents were still alive. He still continued to search. Not long after, Xiao Lingyu arrived at the Radiance Continent. The reason why he had come to the Radiance Continent was that the last material that Xiao Lingyu needed could only be found on the Radiance Continent. The Radiance Continent wasn't very far from the Darkness Continent. He only needed to go through the transmission array on the transit planet that Xiao Lingyu and Anya had been to before. After going through 2 transmissions, Xiao Lingyu would be able to reach the Darkness Continent again. However, he didn't have any good feelings or curiosity about the Darkness Continent. However, what Xiao Lingyu didn't expect was that the Radiance Continent wasn't as peaceful as the Darkness Continent. Moreover, the situation seemed to be even more severe. When he was just in the interstellar transmission array of the Radiance Continent, the first thing he saw wasn't the experts of the Radiance Continent, but countless cultivators of the Darkness Continent wearing black armor and holding black iron spears. Could it be that they're fighting? Xiao Lingyu's heart skipped a beat. He had a very bad premonition. Those cultivators of the Darkness Continent were like an army with strict military discipline. They surrounded the transmission array of the Radiance Continent so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. At this time, those cultivators of the Darkness Continent who were close to the transmission array were all staring at Xiao Lingyu, who was in the transmission array. If it had been any other time, Xiao Lingyu would have activated the teleportation formation and left without hesitation. However, he had come with a purpose this time, so he would not leave so easily. Xiao Lingyu walked out of the teleportation array with an indifferent expression. Originally, she was going to break through by force. Unexpectedly, a Deshang stage master of the Dark Continent, who had seen Xiao Lingyu in the Dark Continent, came up to her and cupped his fists. He said to Xiao Lingyu very politely, "Senior, at present, our Dark Continent is attacking the Radiance Continent. The Radiance Continent is very turbulent, and there are battlefields everywhere. If there is nothing important for Senior to come to the Radiance Continent, please travel elsewhere." Although Xiao Lingyu didn't know why the other party was being so polite, he naturally didn't put on airs since the other party was being so polite. He replied without any change in his expression, "I'm here because I have something to do. I won't interfere with your battle. In that case, Senior, please go ahead. I will inform the others to let Senior pass." The Deshang stage cultivator still replied respectfully. Xiao Lingyu nodded indifferently, then jumped up and flew away into the distance. Could it be that these people also think that I'm a 9th tribulation powerhouse? Or did he communicate with the 7th tribulation powerhouse of the Dark Continent last time? Xiao Lingyu flew at a high speed while thinking in his heart. It didn't take long for Xiao Lingyu to be blocked by a group of Dark Continent cultivators in front of him. However, after looking at Xiao Lingyu, those cultivators let him go very respectfully. After being stopped more than 10 times in a row, Xiao Lingyu finally flew out of the range of the teleportation array controlled by the Dark Continent cultivators. Then, after flying for a while, he took out the tracking spirit mirror as a routine. However, the results still disappointed Xiao Lingyu. His parents had not come to the Radiance Continent. After putting away the tracking spirit mirror, Xiao Lingyu took out a jade slip. After sinking his mind into it for a long time, he rode the chasing star and aimed in one direction at full speed. The topographic map of the Radiance Continent was engraved in the jade slip. Although it was not very detailed, it could also give Xiao Lingyu directions. As the Deshang realm cultivator said, there were battlefields everywhere on the Radiance Continent. The cultivators of the Dark Continent and the cultivators of the Radiance Continent seemed to have an irreconcilable blood feud. They were fighting everywhere on the Radiance Continent. The Radiance Continent had been destroyed into a mess. There were ruins everywhere, and the corpses of cultivators could be seen everywhere. It was not an exaggeration to say that corpses were everywhere and blood flowed like a river. Xiao Lingyu didn't have the time to figure out why these 2 origin continents were so hostile to each other. As long as he encountered a battlefield along the way, No matter what the other party's cultivation was, no matter what the scale of the battle was, he directly let the chasing star take a detour. The speed of the chasing star was very fast. Even if the cultivators who were fighting found it, it would be difficult for them to intercept him. What Xiaoling Yu didn't know was that shortly after he arrived at the Radiance continent, the Black Blood Demon's Elder Nine also came with Princess Mononoke. Contrary to the situation encountered by Xiaoling Yu, the experts of the Dark Continent besieging the transmission array didn't give the Black Blood Demon's experts any face. They first ordered the two of them to leave quickly. Without the other party's consent, they directly launched an attack. Unfortunately, the Black Blood Demon's Elder Nine was a sixth tribulation powerhouse. He just released a tyrannical aura and pushed away all the other party's attacks. Then, he easily rushed out of the encirclement with Princess Mononoke. Following the direction where Xiaoling Yu had flown, the Black Blood Demon duo broke through more than a dozen cordons set up by the Dark Continent's cultivators one after another. Finally, they stopped at the place where Xiaoling Yu had driven the tracking spirit mirror before. A spirit-searching pearl appeared in Princess Mononoke's hand. She said with certainty, "That guy has indeed arrived at the Radiance continent." Then, the Elder Nine took out another tracking spirit mirror and projected Xiaoling Yu's image into it. After a while, the needle on the tracking spirit mirror pointed. Xiaoling Yu flew at full speed for 6 hours before he stopped in front of Forest. However, he stopped for less than 10 breaths of time. Then, he drove the chasing star again and rushed into the forest. This forest was also very famous in the Radiance continent. It was called the Divine Forest. It was said that before the realms were separated, there was once a very powerful divine ranker who cultivated somewhere in this forest. Moreover, he had left behind many miracles which had not been erased by the passage of time. This was something that could be verified and not an illusory legend. However, there were no powerful magic treasures left behind by the God of Heaven, nor were there any powerful formations or restrictions set up by the God of Heaven. There were only a lot of light-type demonic beasts and many light-type heavenly materials and earthly treasures. The last material that Xiaoling Yu lacked was not an extremely rare existence like the Three Lives flower or the Dragon Soul grass. Of course, it was also not an ordinary item that could be found everywhere in the Divine Forest. Therefore, after he entered the depths of the Divine Forest, he put away the chasing star and released his consciousness completely to search carefully. 2 hours after Xiaoling Yu entered the Heavenly God Forest, the two people from the Black Blood Devil sect also arrived outside the Heavenly God Forest. The news of them breaking through the warning line of the transmission array had naturally spread to the ears of the top experts of the Dark Continent. However, the experts of the Dark Continent were in a decisive battle with the experts of the Radiance Continent. They were unable to send people to stop the Black Blood Demon duo. After all, one of the two was a sixth tribulation expert and an elder of the Black Blood Demon. This is the Divine Forest of the Radiance Continent. There are many powerful light-type demonic beasts inside. These light-type demonic beasts are very disgusted with us devil cultivators. If we go in, I'm afraid that we will be constantly harassed and even besieged by a large number of light-type demonic beasts, Elder Nine said with a frown. They're just a group of animals. If they can attack us, can't they attack that guy? Princess Mononoke said with a cold face. She had always been very unhappy about being kidnapped by Xiaoling Yu. Even if she admired Xiaoling Yu's ability and style of doing things, it couldn't be a reason for her to give up chasing Xiaoling Yu. After all, the entanglement between Xiaoling Yu and the Black Blood Demon was too deep. I really don't know what that guy is doing here. Elder Nine was a little depressed. However, after the Kunshu continent, he once again asked the sect master of the Devil's sect for instructions. After explaining the situation, the sect master ordered them to continue chasing after Xiaoling Yu. Since they were sure that Xiaoling Yu wasn't a ninth tribulation expert, the Black Blood Demon naturally had nothing to fear. If we don't get rid of this guy, there will be endless trouble in the future. His speed of progress and potential are too terrifying. Right now, he and our devil sect are like fire and water. Now is the best time to kill him. Once he continues to grow, the consequences will be unimaginable. Princess Mononoke said as she walked towards the divine forest. Young Miss is right. The ninth elder responded and followed after her. Although there were many light, demonic beasts in the divine forest, Elder Nine didn't think that there would be anyone stronger than him. He just felt that although that guy wasn't a nine tribulation expert, his strength wouldn't be too bad. Shaolin Yu walked around in the depths of the divine forest for half a day and finally found his target. However, he was stopped by 3 demonic beasts that looked almost identical. He had encountered light, demonic beasts in the divine forest before. However, with the wings of extreme speed, he didn't need to fight with those demonic beasts at all. In a few flashes, he could shake them off. However, he couldn't do that this time. He had to get rid of these 3 demonic beasts first because they had surrounded his target. You'd better get out of the way. You're no match for me, and I don't want to kill you. Shaolin Yu said to the 3 light, demonic beasts. As he spoke, he released his aura. At the same time, he held the immortal weapon, Phoenix Feather, in his hand. If he could get the last material without fighting or killing, Shaolin Yu didn't mind wasting some saliva. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.